Greetings, fellow Barbenheimer survivors. Tiki here,
And Blue Dragon 5.
and welcome to the show where we wax poetic about the movies we see on a month-to-month basis. It's time to crack open our very pink edition of Movie Memoirs! All right, Dragon, there is a lot to go over. Obviously, this was the month of Barbenheimer. I kid you not. That day, I believe it was Thursday the 20th, it was one of the best days I've had in a long time, Dragon. Like, just as a film fan, I'm not even trying to be facetious about that. It literally felt like a holiday to me. Okay, we got I Am an Insomniac on here. I just want to point this out. He says, and Oppenheimer and Barbie thing was nowhere near as charming and endearing as the time Doom Eternal and Animal Crossing came out at the same time. That was also like equally refreshing just because we really needed a pick-me-up during that time period because that was like right as the pandemic was starting. Anyways, Dragon, I hope you're doing well. Let's get things started with some news.
Yeah.
All right. So, of course, we have to do an in memoriam. Folks, we did a full-blown, I believe it was about an hour and a half. It's honestly one of my favorite, like, in memoriam. I don't want to rank the in memoriams, of course.
Yeah, let's not rank the dead people.
But I'm saying, like, just as far as, like, our tributes to them, it was one of my favorite tributes. Like, I really feel like we got into a lot of the nitty-gritty about Paul Rubin's career. Maybe why he was sort of like unfairly cast to the side. I really enjoyed our conversation last night, Dragon. So go ahead and check that out. Obviously, Paul Rubin's just big icon. I feel like the root of that conversation was kind of like, yeah, the man's always going to be known for Pee-wee, but he was so much more.
That's true.
All right. And then, of course, Tony Bennett, Dragon. Do you have any Tony Bennett memories?
Yeah, I mean, of course. This is Tony Bennett, very, very talented singer. One of the, I don't know if you lump him with the crooners or not. I guess technically it would be a crooner.
I would definitely lump him in with the crooners, yeah.
I think he's technically in that kind of like that school of thought. So, yeah, anyway, he's one of the greats, one of the all-time greats in terms of the sound, the voice, and everything. But for me, there are two movie memories I always have with Tony Bennett. I think a lot of people might think of when they think of him. Because I think most recent people think of, like, oh, yeah, that's Lady Gaga's pal. But for me, though, two of my favorite Tony Bennett film appearances were The Scout. I've told you about The Scout. Did you ever watch The Scout, the movie with Albert Brooks and Brendan Fraser?
No, you told me about that one.
I love The Scout.
Check it out.
I'm not even a sports guy, and I love The Scout.
Uh-huh.
And so in The Scout, you have Brendan Fraser. Essentially, he's the baseball wonderkin, and the point being, Albert Brooks is the scout who scouts the talent that is Brendan Fraser, brings him from somewhere in the somewhere in the Mexico, and he brings him to New York, and he's taken for a night on the town, and they go like Tony Bennett's performing, and he's doing New York, which is his big closer, and Brendan Fraser, his character, he sings New York when Tony basically like, the whole crowd's like singing New York, stealing his thunder.
Uh-huh.
And oh god, it's like Al Brooks is like ashen hard, like, oh god, you stole Tony's thunder. And then Tony Bennett comes back and he psychs Brendan Fraser out. It's really funny.
That's delightful.
Now, the other one, another payoff kind of gave with Tony Bennett. Analyze This. I love Analyze This. I forget we ever talked about that one or not. The one with it's Robert De Niro.
We've definitely brought it up.
Yeah. Harold Ramis directed that. And essentially, De Niro played. It was kind of Sopranos before there was Sopranos, at the very least concurrently with Sopranos. I have to check the years on that. But the point being, mobster who needs a therapist, only played a little bit more like I think we all thought The Sopranos was initially going to go, but it didn't. Where essentially, Billy Crystal is intimidated by his mobster patient, and the first thing he brings up is like, "Oh, so you like Tony Bennett?" Because he's like a Tony Bennett CD on his desk. Like, yes, like I like all Italian singers, yes. And by the end of the movie, Tony Bennett is performing for
oh god
for the Ben Sobel character in his backyard. So that's what I'm thinking. Like Tony Bennett, of course, is just having his wonderful voice, but also just kind of like being like just the icon that he was. So yeah, Tony Bennett will be missed. He had a very long life. He changed. He touched a lot of lives, and musically, I mean, second to is playing Sinatra's version of New York, New York. Tony Bennett was the guy.
Yeah, just to shout it out really quick, the thing that I will always remember him for is his very brief cameo on The Simpsons, but it was very memorable where I guess it's not really brief because he does have a whole song. I believe it's the first time that Capital City is introduced, which is Springfield's rival town. And so he's singing like a Simpsonized Tony Bennett is singing like a very New York inspired song.
Did he ever interact with City. Did he ever interact with Fat Tony on that show?
I don't think so.
That's a missed opportunity, right?
But he does have this really nice moment where, like the Simpsons are driving down the main drag of Capital City, and Tony Bennett is just, like out there singing, and Marge is just like, "Look, it's Tony Bennett."
Because
Tony Bennett is just like, "Hey, how you doing?"
Because of Analyze This, I think my favorite Tony Bennett song is "I've Got the World on a String."
Mm-hmm.
It's really nice. So again, Paul Rubens. Again, we already kind of went over ad nauseum, but
also really quick, just to shout out Code Geass in the comments. He's saying the box office was saved by 2 films starring Batman alum and Dragon. You know what? The box office might have been saved, but we're gonna break down the strike, of course. But I just want to mention, because of the whole Code Geass mentioning like Batman alums saving Hollywood. Wouldn't it be funny if Christian Bale used all of his famous rage for good, maybe teamed up with Tom Cruise, maybe, and just really got, just went right up to all the Hollywood executives and just gave them what for, Dragon? Just like tough love. Like, you're gonna stop this shit right now.
All right.
And then we could really say that Batman saved Hollywood.
Hey,
Monkey is in the comments. That is a good fun fact that Tony Bennett was the first Simpsons guest star to appear as himself.
There you go.
Also, that's actually really funny because one of the more infamous Simpsons guest stars is actually Lady Gaga. So that's kind of funny in full circle.
No, it is. So just with Paul Rubens, just overall, here's the man is committed to a character throughout his life, which is very commendable, and just the fact that we don't have so many of the things that we love without Paul Rubens, kind of his influence on things here. Like, for example, we don't have Hey Arnold without Craig Bartlett getting the job on Pee-wee's Playhouse. We don't have a Blue's Clues. We don't have Steve from Blue's Clues. To a degree, we again, there's a lot of connective tissue for Batman, even because again, Tim Burton does not get his start. We don't get a dark Batman. It depends on how you want to look at it. We don't get the truly dark Batman in live action for the first time without Pee-wee's big adventure giving Burton a foot in the door. Obviously, we don't have SpongeBob without him, to a large degree. We don't have like an inspiration for SpongeBob. It's
Monkey, correct me if I'm wrong, but there were Arnold claymation shorts on Pee-wee's Playhouse as segments, right?
That I don't know if
or maybe it was just Bartlett was working on Pee-wee's Playhouse, because I do definitely remember the Arnold's stop motion shorts.
I'm saying, I know he did. I think he just did that as like a proof of concept, but I don't think it was
okay.
But yeah, so he did the penny shorts, Tiki. That's anyway.
Gotcha.
But yes, of course, Captain Rex, Batmite, just a lot of like roles even beyond Pee-wee that are very struck a chord with us. But great, he will absolutely be missed. I mean, the fact that we have Pee-wee's Big Holiday to kind of remember him fondly with in recent years, so it's nice.
I'm still getting used to my programming. Hey. All right.
Yep.
Oh yeah, they were on Sesame Street. You're right. Yeah. Okay.
The one. I'd like to think that Paul Rubens, he's got to take it to a different sort of magic kingdom.
Oh. Okay, Dragon. Look, Gulliver and I I give Jacob Gulliver a lot of credit because that man, Dragon, he did his homework, buddy. And he came with some cold, hard facts to our strike breakdown. And when you really break down exactly what they are asking for, it is millions of dollars, yes. Mm-hmm. But compared to what the executives are making, it is literally pennies on the dollar. So I don't even know what else to say about just the general strike. Like, Dragon, apparently word came out today that, hold on one sec. Apparently word came out today that, like, the writers and producers are going to be having their first meeting 2 months from now.
Oof.
Yeah. So it's, what say you, my friend?
Well, again, first off, again, we had to introduce the news before we just fire right into it. So, again, SAG, the update on the strike is that the Screen Actors Guild has joined the writers' strike. So that's big, and that was kind of there were a lot of swirling rumors about it, and then it was kind of confirmed that it was imminent, and will definitely happen this month. And we've been kind of rough, in July, and it's been, the pressure is on, that was the big hope, is that the actors would put the screws to Hollywood. And right now, it seems like the rich, the upper class of Hollywood, they're waiting out the writers. Because the actors will probably be fine. Eventually, even actors are going to starve. But the writers, though, they're the ones who are going to have to. They're the ones who are going to have the final call. But half the reason the actors are kind of joining the fight there. So it's a cruel play, for sure. It's a skeezy move that they're trying to wait them out with this whole 2-month delay and everything and all that. So it's good, folks. I think if we learn anything this month, and even right now, it's still going on, things are going to get uglier. There's a huge slowdown.
Expect a lot of reality TV. That's all I can tell you, man.
So that's like, things are going to get ugly. There's a huge slowdown going on right now. Things are utterly.
I've got my backlog.
You do. We have the whole bunch of shows I keep saying you never watch. So you can.
No, I know, and I am going to have to start watching them.
Now, the big noteworthy thing of this month for me, in relation to the strike, are two things. One, Ron Perlman, man, there's a guy on a mission. Like, forget Christian Bale, forget Batman saving Hollywood. Hellboy's gonna save Hollywood. But yeah, so Ron Perlman,
that'd be wonderful, though.
Yeah, I think so. Ron Perlman, who is very much, he's the journeyman, but journeyman in the best of ways. A very talented actor, never gets enough credit. But when he shows up, my God, Ron Perlman comes correct at people. He basically grabbed the bull by the horns, and he made a video to most assumably Bob Iger, but it hasn't been 100% confirmed. The point being, big wigs in Hollywood, likely Iger, sadly. And Ron Perlman's basically calling him out, saying very threateningly, hey, if you guys play dirty like this, there are going to be repercussions. And he had to take the video down to everything for threat of legal ramifications.
Dragon, let's just say that Christopher Cousins biopic about Iger that we've been pitching just got he suddenly got a lot more morally gray. Our Christopher Cousins, Bob Iger.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So Bob Iger is the other noteworthy thing, is that Iger has been showing some lapses in judgment and logic.
It's almost as if he's acting like another Disney CEO named Bob.
Sadly, there was a lot of optimism and hope that with Iger, usurping, or at least returning to his position, ousting Bob Chapek, it would have been for the better. And we knew it was going to be a long road, and that there's going to be a lot of damage to undo. But now, with kind of Iger's response to this crisis has been awful compared to how he's responded to crises in the past. But he's never had to deal with a strike, though. So I don't know if it's just him being ill-prepared right now, or if that's just...
I'd say it almost kind of has shades of how Walt Disney handled the strike.
That's the thing. So, I mean, he's not calling people to McCarthy hearings, but still, he's not blacklisting people, but it's not going well. So, yeah, that's the thing. So Iger's looking bad, and it breaks my heart because I love everything that Iger... I really respected Iger for all the things.
I did too.
And especially, I read his book and everything. I said, man, this guy really seems to have it.
Oh, that book.
It was a good book, man. Seriously, I keep recommending that book.
No, it's a good book, but man, it's not,
it's outdated.
Now another chapter that
now we have a chapter.
You could have stayed retired, Dragon. That's the thing.
That's what I'm saying. That book is the ultimate success story, and now it's
if he would have just stayed retired, he could have just washed his hands of the whole thing.
Yep.
All right. I'm gonna shout out Richard's victims in the comments here. He says, Netflix, wake up, you need Stranger Things and Squid Games, and you know it, and Wednesday too. Yeah.
Well, let me say this: if anyone's going to be able to save this strike, I love that the strike is in the hands of the most capable, likable hands in television history. The nanny. It's in Fran Drescher's capable
Yes,
hands.
no, I do like that. I do genuinely like
The
that.
nanny can save us, maybe. I'm hopeful. I'm hoping. I'm pulling for it.
Someone needs to make like a rewritten version of the Nanny theme song, but just in this current context.
That would be great. It's kind of funny because when you remember, the Screen Actors Guild traditionally is headed by an actor. So Ed Asner was sadly the most infamous because he it was a situation. I forget if it was how similar it was to this. I forget if it was during a strike or not. But Ed Asner had he was the president of Screen Actors Guild, most unpopular because he voiced some political opinions that made people kind of cagey and they really rioted against them. But that's what I'm saying. We had Ed Asner as like the president of Screen Actors Guild. Now we have Fran Drescher. So it's wonderful.
Kogias just saying, I'm a writer myself, so I wish extra luck to all the people involved in the writer strikes. Indeed, yeah. Indeed. Really quick, I do want to shout out A24. Monkey, you did mention that one of their releases did get pushed back because of the strike. I'm not really sure what that's about. I don't even really think I've heard of this Problemista movie. I'm sure I've probably heard of it, but Talk to Me just got released this weekend. A24, apparently, I don't know the specifics of it, but apparently they are definitely like the only major studio like catering to the demands of the writers and the actors. And so essentially, Dragon, A24, buddy, you better get used to A24 movies because they're going to be about the only thing that's actually going to get made in the coming year or so. I don't actually know the details of how that goes down or how far it extends, but I do know that they are like one of the few studios that's actually like working within the parameters of the strike. Let's see.
I guess that transitions to strike related news.
Yeah, Richard's victims will definitely get to talk to me. Yeah, I do know it was done by YouTubers. So word on the street is some movies might get delayed, Dragon.
Oh, really? You don't say. Yeah, so we had like the most bittersweet.
I think it's just like the biggest twist in the knife of them all is like, we're going to fucking delay these movies so that after we bleed you guys dry and you come back to us, you'll have to promote the movies. I mean, it's so goddamn insidious, man. It really is.
Yeah, let me put it to you this way. Transitioning to the next piece of news. This month, for a variety of reasons, I think has been the worst memoirs for me ever.
Oh, yeah.
So for so many reasons, but one's the most lighthearted example of this. It's like on one hand, hey, we got Deadpool 3 news. On the plus side, we saw the kind of boost everyone's morale. We saw Hugh Jackman in the yellow costume, and it looked amazing.
Deadpool 3 was literally like a roller coaster because we got that production photo, and then literally like 3 days later?
Yep, 3 days.
Yeah.
3 days later, it's been halted officially because of the strike. The actors have gone in for the strike. Like, no, we're starting the shooting in the yellow zone. No.
Yeah.
The only positive silver lining that could, well, now it's the only outcome we could possibly have
is that they can improv if they do
the only time they're going to be allowed to shoot is when they settle this thing. So
sure,
I was hoping for it, but I was hoping it was going to be settled like before the actors had to get involved.
And let's face it, I'm expecting the writers to get resolved like sooner than the actors. I just think with the actors, there's more money on the table, and also just it's more complicated with the AI of it all.
Yeah, that's the thing. We have AI, and we have AI and the essentially the residuals.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. So Okay,
Well,
so here's
the
the
writers, I believe it's more like AI is the residuals are definitely part of it, but it's essentially a salary thing. With
Well, that's
the
what I'm saying. That's what I mean with the residuals things. The fact they're
yeah,
only getting
yeah,
paid once for the job, but they're not getting the way an actor gets the residuals every time it's watched. Honestly, streaming is the blind side for all of them. That's why the actors really glom onto this thing. And that, if I understand, the actors are also not getting residuals for things that are being streamed, or at the very. I'm pretty sure they're not. They're also not getting it for streaming.
hmm and
Only
of
the one
course,
time.
this year has been like the grand introduction of like anything that you love on a streaming service can get purged at any time. The cult classic is dead.
Yeah. And right now, I think the fear is that if they do come to an agreement, it might be a really big, like, okay, if we end up having to pay these actors for, like the actors and the writers and everyone per like streaming, if they can somehow take a tally of that, greedy studios, are going to be like, okay, we got to cut back on our program and like
Oh
instantly. Okay,
Jesus!
we got to streamline to the bare essentials. I mean, forget having a library, just what's original. That's all we can,
Right, right, yeah.
It's gonna stink.
Yeah, overall, I mean, it's one thing I can say is that
Oh, I
as
heard something ridiculous. I don't know if you heard
okay,
about this yet. Okay, it didn't really make the news. It's kind of tangentially related. So, if I understood it correctly, I heard the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my entire life in regards to DVD releases or Blu-ray releases, home video releases. Period. Disney apparently
yes, yes.
they attempted their first home media release, but they did something really stupid. So WandaVision was going to be their trial run for like, hey, we're going to
Yep.
release one of our Disney Plus Marvel shows. Like, okay, in concept, that's a great idea. We should do that.
I mean, WandaVision would be the one to do it with, I think.
But there was one I'm sure it sounds like you've heard.
Oh, I've
There
heard
was
of it.
one
I believe Gulliver actually posted about it on Facebook. And
So
that's
assuming this is true, because it sounds so stupid and ridiculous, it can't possibly be true. But if that's what I'm saying,
release
assuming
a
this is
physical media box set without the physical media.
and if I understand it, there was a hole for the disc,
Yep.
but no disc. The most
Fucking
ridiculous thing.
unbelievable.
I've heard of empty box campaigns, but this is taking it to a whole nother
Right,
level.
right, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is
I assume that when you buy it, you get a download code, but still.
Again, they're missing the point.
Right, exactly.
Physical release, not an empty box.
Speaking of missing the point, Dragon, remember I was talking to you, I think this was off air, about how Hollywood's trying to repeat Barbenheimer. And there was like one thing that they were trying to pair Saw with, and I thought it was really dumb, but I couldn't think of it.
Yeah.
Paw Patrol.
So Saw Patrol.
Yes, they're trying to make Saw Patrol a thing.
Yeah, it's dumb.
It's so dumb, and it's fucking missing the point.
Not as dumb as the empty box thing.
No, you're right. It's not as dumb as the empty. Also, apparently in Australia, Disney just flat out just discontinued any sort of physical media in Australia.
Man, they really hate Australians.
I guess so.
All right. So let's see. So moving on to here's something that we're moving on from the stuff that's like there's a lot of bittersweet news in the middle here, but here's something that's kind of a old column A, old column B here. So we did get some Comic-Con news, which you are bringing up, kind of sprinkling throughout the news here, from the very little that was at San Diego Comic-Con this year. We could talk about the animated stuff, so we did get DC animated film announcements, which are pretty big. What was announced, but not exactly as awe-inspiring as I think they could have been. So we had 3 things revealed this month. Well, in July, technically one thing was revealed, like, I think today, so one of them's kind of like skirted by. They announced Watchmen. Now, we don't know what the approach is yet. We don't know if it's just going to be an adaptation of the book, or they're going to do something like Lindelof did, or if they're going to do it before Watchmen. We don't know yet. All we know is it's likely going to be a movie, not a series. So they're doing an animated Watchmen take.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I honestly kind of hope it's not a straight adaptation. Like, honestly, like, what would be cool is kind of like maybe like an anthology film following different characters.
I mean, that would be a way to go.
Or like maybe like a Sin City kind of approach where it's like kind of following different characters and the storylines kind of intertwine.
that's the thing. This makes me, again, the anthology approach does seem, because essentially it was released as an anthology comic, correct? Because every character got an individual story. It sounds like Before Watchmen, which essentially would be like stuff that happens before the big story happens. Which
Dragon, I'm basically pitching Before Watchmen, but good.
Well, essentially, yeah. So ideally, but I would be in favor. Honestly, to me, Before Watching has always been the safest approach in terms of adapting watching, because you're adding spokes to the wheel without really taking anything away from the story. You have to worry about the squid. I think, yeah, that's probably the.
I mean, to be fair, the squid would be awesome in animation.
Yes, I'm saying I'm not knocking the squid. I'm just saying some people get really like, Zack Snyder did a great job, but he didn't have that squid in there. You know,
which like, I think is stupid. Honestly, that's like that's one of the few things I actually give Zack Snyder a lot of credit for. Is I really thought the Dr. Manhattan twist was really creative.
It is a better. I think axing the squid was a really good choice.
I genuinely think it's a better story.
By the same token, though, having the squid the way we do in the Lindelof Watchmen is also good. But still, for what the Snyder movie was doing, though, it was a good call. Is to streamline things and adapt it. You know, not just like I'm just gonna have a random squid in there. Anyway, so the other thing here's the more interesting thing. That this is the thing I'm a little more worried about. Watchmen is like if they do Before Watchmen, they'll be fine. If they just readapt it, I mean, if they make it a really long animated movie, which they won't, you know, I don't know. But Crisis on Infinite Earths is finally happening in animation, which on its when you hear that, it's like, hey, we're doing Crisis upright potentially. Then you hear it's in the Tomorrowverse. Now, Tomorrowverse Tiki started off really strong. It did start off concrete, and it still had some good movies in there. Still, it hasn't like dipped in like a dreaded quality. But I won't lie, and we'll get into this a little later. I think the Tomorrowverse has been in their most recent releases has been it's been dipping a little bit. Quality a little bit like the Green Lantern movie and the most recent movie I feel could have been better. And let's just say in what they're doing in building and continuity, in which they're kind of taking baby steps from the outset of this thing, but they're doing really good stuff. They've been taking baby steps, taking their time. It's okay, maybe a few fumbles, but it's not really hurting the overall whole so long as they take their time with things. Going straight to Crisis next, I think, is them repeating the mistakes of the CW.
Totally.
I mean, to be fair, they have a better foundation than the CW in terms of doing a Crisis. But by that token, though, it's like Crisis is a thing when you've lived in this world for a while and you've seen these characters interact.
Sure,
what's going to happen to them? These guys are still babes in the woods. We haven't really, we've been doing the origins for them. We haven't really. We had Long Halloween do an excellent introduction to it.
It'd be like doing Infinity Wars, the first Avengers movie, essentially.
Yeah, essentially, yes.
Right.
That's precisely what it is. On one hand, Crisis in animation is a great idea because it sounds like James Gunn is not going.
Seems like it should have been like the second phase, though, at least.
Yeah, I mean, they're not really looking at in phases right now, but you also have to remember this. And this is another thing we'll get to. I'll transition to right now. So there's been a lot of speculation with the DC animated stuff. Is how has the James Gunn influence has it changed what their original plans were? And yes and no. It sounds like James Gunn will not be doing Crisis, but by the same token, they announced that they're doing Crisis. One of the reasons they're doing Crisis is because they there was one film everyone's been asking like crazy, hey, has James Gunn affected what you guys are planning? They said, no, not really. But then recently Butch Lukic kind of got really bold and he said, well, the only thing that's really been affected is we were going to do Kingdom Come and we couldn't because of the higher ups.
So
that means now what I like to think with that is that James Gunn might actually be taking a stab in live action or in an animated film that is separate from the DC original animated movies of doing Kingdom Come. Because the big thing, I still wish they confirmed at Comic-Con, but they didn't, is that we're going to have that Creature Commandos thing, which is the animated movies that are going to be able to tie into live action stuff. And we will see those characters in live action. That's essentially what James Gunn is doing. He's trying to integrate that in the video games and the things that the three universes could kind of intermingle. The live action, the video games, and the animated stuff could be all in the same universe, but be able to traverse each other. So that's the thing. I don't know if that means like we're not getting Crisis, but we might be getting Kingdom Come or not. So it's
I just want that damn Batman Beyond movie, Dragon. That's all I want.
I know. That's the thing.
Especially now that the Spider-Verse style is a thing, it would work so perfectly. If we can't get live action Batman Beyond, can we at least get that? It
That's what
doesn't
I'm
seem
saying.
so hard.
If we get that beyond animation again, it feels like that might be something James Gunn's going to try and tie into things in a live action thing, maybe. But I don't know.
I mean, I would not mind live action Batman Beyond. Don't get me wrong. I honestly think though, like Spider-Verse would be a perfect style for it.
I'd like Batman Beyond, period. So any form I can take it. But live action, clearly though, but based on the fact that we have Return of the Joker, it's like, okay, if we at least can say we have one really great animated Batman Beyond movie, but we don't. We don't have a really great. We have Mask of the Phantasm, we have The Dark Knight. Well, here's what we don't have. We don't have Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker, and Batman Beyond and live action Michael Keaton or whoever.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, okay, so more on Superman.
Yeah, really quick. Richard's victim says, Kogia says, I'm getting sick of superhero films that are shared universes. I want films like Joker that are their own thing. I think Barbenheimer is going to help with that. I really do. Once all this strike shit is actually, once the dust is settled, if it ever gets settled and Hollywood doesn't just burn to the ground in the meantime.
It sounds like Kingdom Come would have been like a Gotham by Gaslight, or like the Doom that came to Gotham sort of thing. It sounds like that one would have been separate, because you can't really say Kingdom Come happens in the Tomorrowverse. But then again, we're doing Crisis, so what do I know?
Okay, Richard's victim says, Gios, that's why I hope Matt Reeves' Batman doesn't cross over. Oh, we got some fighting words here, Dragon. Gios says, I hope so too, because I don't like Matt Reeves' Batman.
Okay,
Richard's victim says, okay, Gios, I'm breaking up with you.
Okay,
How say that to me?
I'm sure we're not going to cross over Matt Reeves' Batman. I'm sure Gunn's going to have the sense to keep that separate. I mean, like, his movies are practically separate from the MCU. I think he'll be fine.
I really like Matt Reeves' Batman, but there are the multiple endings thing, man. It's so frustrating.
I know, it's like the one
so frustrating to me. If it would have just ended with that damn torch.
Yeah, essentially him looking up at that lady.
Yeah, exactly.
That's your ending, perfect ending right there. I mean, that's that movie. The end of the Batman.
Least favorite Batman film? Oh wow!
The end of the Batman, had it ended there, would have been flawless. Would have been like the best Batman ending ever.
But then, like, literally, the last 10 minutes is like the worst stuff in the whole movie.
Well, I mean, it's just like, it's nice, but it's not. It kind of compromises that perfect ending, which makes it de facto worse. Because remember, we end technically on Catwoman and Batman on the motorcycles. That's essentially what we end the movie on. That's fine, but like the scene before it, though, is like, oh man, I don't like this Keoghan Joker. At least in the bits that we're seeing of him so far, it's like the lack of what we're seeing.
So far. I mean, I think Keoghan's solid casting for Joker. I don't like the performance, really.
I'm saying, it's just terrible.
And I think the big problem is just that there's so many other Batman villains at this point. Like, I know that ultimately we're going to need Joker if we continue this universe, but like, at least go the Dark Knight route, man. At least save him for the sequel.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he was obviously set up in Batman Begins, but Batman Begins did it in such a more subtle, cool way.
Of course, one of the Batman Gordon scenes, like possibly the definitive. I'm going to be honest, possibly through all media.
It could be. It could be.
Gordon scene. Like, it's like you have they gave it like the really great line to the whole, like, I don't think in any other Batman media do we have like the exchange of, I never said thank you and you'll never have to. I mean, that's perfect.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, Dragon, do you want to talk Superman or Wonder Woman next?
What do you? Let's talk Wonder. Yeah, let's do Wonder.
Yeah, Wonder Woman's fresh off the presses.
I think it's like listed. Didn't we do Wonder Woman next? Or did I not add that?
No, we technically you skipped ahead to the animated stuff.
Oh,
listed before it. That's why he asked.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk Wonder Woman. So we had to read. This is very recent. It's hot off the presses. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Dragon. This to me. I mean, I have grown to like Gal Gadot in the role. But I also, like, she's iconic in the role, but I really don't think that she, like, performance-wise, she's the best that we can do with Wonder Woman. And Dragon, I'm not going to lie, I think that confirming this and making it Wonder Woman 3 after Shazam 2 flopped, after Aquaman 2 is almost certainly going to flop. I mean, they have so little confidence in Aquaman 2, they haven't even started advertising it yet. It's probably going to get pushed back.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is honestly, Dragon, this is the first kink in James Gunn's armor for me.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. When I heard this was confirmed by you. I heard this was confirmed. I am concerned because this is going to be a lot of egg on his face, but let alone for the other stuff, more so for the fact of like everyone their mother is going to say, other than my grandmother, because she's also brokenhearted about this. She loves The Witcher. I've not watched. She loves The Witcher, and she loves she really liked Henry Cavill's Superman. So, and she was brokenhearted to find out, oh, he was going to play more, and they turned him away. So the fact that we're going to bring back Gal Gadot, and we're still unsure like how much other people are going to bring. But regardless, even if we bring back other people or just bring back Gal Gadot, we're not going to bring back Cavill.
Dragon Page from Better Call Saul is just she's just so unhappy right now. Because James Gunn is muddying the goddamn waters.
He is. This is here's the thing. Here's what James Gunn's working with right now. I understand the to a degree what his logic is. Okay, so the idea is that he's going to keep Peacemaker going. And Peacemaker is in that niche of like it's kind of like Shazam, but the R-rated Shazam in terms of like we're not connecting all the dots, but we are using as much as we can. Which, for example, for example, kind of like what we do in the Flash, we're trying to keep the old continuity going. Only the Flash does not have a shelf life at all. Peacemaker, on the other hand, is set within the DCEU, but it's doing the fun stuff that we weren't able to do in the DCEU. But that's the thing. So it is set in that world, and we've kind of crossed. Even Shazam and Peacemaker have crossed over because we, at the end credits of Shazam, the Suicide Squad characters pop up. So he's trying to have his cake and eat it too. And he's trying to play by the rules that he's established between those two movies, which is kind of a loose continuity thing where, okay, so Wonder Woman appears in Shazam, ergo, she would appear in, she'd be in kind of that Peacemaker space, those characters interacting. So these characters can interact.
I literally thought that we weren't doing anything else with Shazam. I literally thought the reason Shazam 2 flopped so hard is because we were done with Shazam and people thought it wouldn't matter. That's what I'm fucking baffled by.
I don't know, and that's the thing. It's the fact that James he hasn't been cagey about things when people are asking questions. I don't think they're asking the right questions. Like, James, give us a direct answer. What Peacemaker counts, what doesn't count? Okay, that's what we need to know. What are we salvaging?
You know what I kind of hope? Honestly, I kind of hope that he just forgoes the shared cinematic universe thing entirely and just focuses the Wonder Woman movies are just going to be Wonder Woman movies. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Here's the big question, Tiki. One big question. When you heard this, did he say Wonder Woman 3 or just another Wonder Woman movie?
I'm pretty sure he said Wonder Woman 3 specifically.
That might be I don't know if that's an issue of he just wants to finish out that trilogy and have Wonder Woman 3, and then he'll move past in the next installment, which is probably the smartest way to go about that.
But my whole thing with that, though, is that, you guys are already... I mean, Shazam 2 was kind of embarrassing, frankly. It was a decent movie, but... it just, and then the Flash, and like I said, Aquaman 2 at this point is just kind of in release limbo.
Basically, it feels like the best approach would have been we close the loop on things, keep Peacemaker as the exception, but everything else though would be we wrap things up with Shazam and the Flash. So we're not going to see those characters again. Aquaman technically would be the last vestige of it. And Blue Beetle, we're going to see how Blue Beetle does if we're going to cross them. Otherwise,
Blue Beetle's not going to do well.
Well, still, it's a question if it's going to I don't know. We'll see.
We don't know how good the actual movie is.
That's what I'm saying. I think that one's just going to be a matter of if James Gunn feels the movie did really well, he'll try and keep it around.
I do not think the advertising has done Blue Beetle any favors, and I'm not even talking about that stupid Batman thing.
Okay, Mike.
I'm just saying those trailers look so generic.
You see my point, though. Doesn't it feel like the smart move would have been we close the loop on the things that we're just kind of saddled with, and then going forward we would have okay, we're going to do a new Wonder Woman movie with a new Wonder Woman actress, and the only vestiges we'd really have existing from the DCU going forward would be Peacemaker.
Mm-hmm.
I know you haven't seen Peacemaker, which I really think you should, but
Dragon, I know I need to watch it. I know I need to.
Yeah. But yeah, so essentially that feels like that would have been the right call. I mean, Gunn's probably just feeling obligated to finish the third one. I don't know if Patty Jenkins is coming back for it or not. I think Gunn's smart, he'll bring her back because it's her baby from the beginning. I don't know, but we'll see.
And I know that you and I very much disagree about Wonder Woman 19. It's 84, right? Not 86?
Not 86, it's 84. Yeah.
All right. I know we disagree about that. It would be nice. I don't know. I've honestly not loved either Wonder Woman movie.
Well, I agree. The cheetah stuff did not hold up, or I agree with you.
At this point, I think, honestly, like, the original movie definitely has, like, higher highs, but it also is not great.
Well, the first movie just has a bad third act. All right,
right.
Facts 1 and 2 of Wonder Woman are good.
No, you're right. They are solid.
Just the minute she's fighting Ares is when the movie takes a dip. It's like.
Anyways, we better speed run through this casting. I know there's a lot to break down about the Superman stuff, but so I'm just gonna go in order of the IMDb for the people we haven't covered yet. So. Isabella Merced is Hawkgirl. I'm really excited about this. I really loved her in that Dora movie. I think more people need to appreciate what that Dora movie did as far as like just being like a meta kind of like what if Dora the Explorer actually existed in the real world and was like painfully awkward and socially unaware. Mm-hmm. And I gotta tell you, Dragon, she was honestly one of my picks for a young Wonder Woman. So I am very happy with this casting.
Yeah, so her playing Hawkgirl could be good. Let me ask you that again. It's another thing where we're kind of stuck with things, and also there's another crossover thing with the James Gunn stuff with Peacemaker, Black Adam. We had the wonderful Aldous Hodge as Hawkman. Do you think we're going to say like that? That's that Hawkgirl goes with that Hawkman? I
would hope so. At this point, honestly. I don't know. I'm honestly a big fan of Hawkgirl and
Green Lantern.
Yeah. Sorry.
Again, that's the annoying thing too. Yeah. Like Aldous Hodge should have played John Stewart. It would have been.
But then again, it's like John Stewart's not going to be in this particular movie, but he might be in later movies. I want to see a live action John Stewart.
It really annoys me that I think James Gunn really wanted to impress everyone. He said, you know what? Forget Hawkman. We're going to make him Green Lantern, make everyone happy.
That would be a good move.
How's that sound for everyone? Do that.
Screw continuity, god damn it.
Yeah, it's already.
But you know what though? The Green Lantern that we do get, Dragon, it's legitimately some of the best superhero movie casting ever.
Yes.
Nathan, you don't think so? Nathan Fillion is Guy Gardner?
No, here's the thing. I want to be clear. Nathan Fillion is, when you're casting Green Lantern, you absolutely want Nathan Fillion. So
I think it's fucking perfect.
I think it's perfect, but here's the thing. The only thing I'm remotely unsure about, I think he's going to do a great job regardless. I just want to say for posterity's sake, Nathan Fillion has always been consistently cast as Hal Jordan, and he's a lot of love for that character and everything. So I think a lot of people, when they heard Nathan Fillion playing Green Lantern, like, oh my God, he's finally going to play Hal Jordan, and we don't care about the age thing. All right, yeah. And then you say Guy Gardner, it's like, oh man, he's playing he's playing the douchebag Green Lantern. But of course, if anyone's going to be able to play that as well,
Nathan Fillion can do the douche energy, man. Have you seen Dr. Horrible?
I know, that's what I'm saying. So it's kind of it's a thing where it's still going to be great. I'm just saying, like, deep down, it's like, yeah, but I think he really wanted to play Hal Jordan. But he's going to be great as Guy Gardner. It's going to work out either way. I'm just saying, it's like, that's a shame we couldn't give him like the 8.
Ogia says he's voiced Hal Jordan before, so I honestly do think it's neat that he gets to play 2 different Green Lanterns.
I mean, look, I'm saying it's a big win that he's playing Green Lantern. He's going to do an excellent job with Guy Gardner. I'm sure it's going to be funny, and like he didn't cast him as Guy Gardner by accident, I'm sure, but it still just feels like I think Philly in his heart of hearts probably wanted Hal Jordan. It's like, you can play Green Lantern. I can? Finally? Yes, you're going to play Guy Gardner. Oh, okay, James, let's do that.
Hogia says, I want Guy Gardner to be a guy that's a gardener. Oh my God. I could totally see that being a James Gunn gag, honestly. Okay, just to shout out you guys having your little the Batman debate. It is legitimately one of the most fierce, like, okay, I guess we're going to have to agree to disagree. Like, Dragon, these two are on complete polar opposite sides on pretty much every point. But Code Geass, I just want to shout out, I too am also a big fan of Joel Schumacher Batman, specifically Batman and Robin. I don't care what anyone says. I love that movie. All right. Okay, let's see. The next casting is that we haven't gone over. Anthony goddamn Kerrigan.
Is Metamorpho.
So you're gonna have to tell me about the character, but I mean, I'm on board with whatever the hell this dude does after Barry.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a 2-part Justice League episode that really kind of summarizes this guy best. He was well, at the very, I don't know how off the page it is to necessarily. The origin is off the page. Beware, the Batman did a really good job at Metamorpho as well. The point being, Metamorpho is a guy who had like a chemical accident because he was dating the daughter of like of Simon Stagg, who's a greedy billionaire. Basically, tried to get rid of him, gassed him, and turned him into Metamorpho. Basically, can control elements. That's why he's. If you ever look at a picture of him, he's like kind of coated in like 4 different colors of like different elements. He can turn himself into matter. He can transform matter and turn himself in like gases, liquids, and like solids and stuff, which helps him fight crime. So. Anthony, I wonder. With James Gunn, obviously, we might be leaning some comedy here, but Kerrigan's got range. I don't know. We'll see what happens there. Because Metamorpho can be a sad, kind of sad, dramatic character, but also James Gunn loves the Justice League International, which I don't. Here's the big question: Guy Gardner is part of Justice League International. Blue Beetle is also part of Justice League International. We have not said what we're going down on Blue Beetle.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Blue Beetle.
That was a different Blue Beetle. That was the human.
That's true. To be honest with you, that's kind of the main thing that kind of bothers me about this Blue Beetle movie. I know we like the kid who's playing him. I know we like him, but but still, it's like there was a much more iconic Blue Beetle that they could have gotten to first.
All right. So my point is, I wonder if we're going to be James. I don't think officially said if this is the full-on Justice League International or just the Justice League or what. Because I don't know. It's going to be interesting that we're going to have a Justice League that's formed before Superman shows up. Even
now, let's talk about that because my opinion is actually I'm actually kind of in the minority about this, where I actually view all these different characters as a big plus to the movie. Because frankly, if you're using, like, I don't know what the hell they're thinking doing Blue Beetle is, like, if Blue Beetle is going to be the jumping off point, it's going to be a lame jumping off point. I mean, I'm not even saying the movie itself is, in theory, the movie itself could be great, Dragon. I don't fucking know. But James Gunn, the fact of the matter is James Gunn is great with ensembles, and he knows how to tell, like, character-driven stories and focus in on a few characters, like really have 1 or 2 characters as like the leads of the story, but still have, like, we literally just saw this with Guardians. That was very much Rocket's movie, but everyone down the line from the supporting Guardians to the people on Nowhere to freaking Nathan Fillion, all had memorable stuff to do. So I really think that if this is going to be the jumping off point for the DC universe, James Gunn's universe, I actually think I'm excited about the fact that he's going as much as hard as he can go with, like, yeah, this is the universe. And I have faith in him. I don't know why anyone doesn't have faith in him that Superman is going to be the heart of the story. Because I mean, I think the Guardians movies prove that he can center main characters and still have really good ensembles.
Yeah, it's that's all gonna be fine. I just wonder if we're gonna say just like these just kind of heroes, disparate heroes, or if there's gonna be like a pre-established Justice League. And regardless, that could be interesting. That could work. It's gonna be different. Is all. But yeah, that's it. I mean, Guy Gardner interacting with Superman is gonna be really fun. I can tell you that much. That's now there was also Mr. Terrific, Eddie Gauthlig. I'm butchering that, but he was.
I want to say Gathigi?
Sure. Yeah, he was. I forget what the mutant's name is in question. He was like the adaptable mutant character from X-Men First Class, the one who died tragically turned to a statue. I've seen him pop up in other things. He was, God, he's a really good character. I've seen this guy in a number of places, but I think he's going to be good. I think when I look at this guy, it's like, hey, we're putting him as Mr. Terrific. That'd be good. We actually give him a role he could probably shine in this time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, looking forward to that. So again, yeah. All right.
Okay, next on the docket, we're just going to blow through some trailers real quick.
All right.
What?
I said, yes, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay, so Napoleon, Dragon, are you excited about Wonkpolian? Hashtag Wonkpolian.
This is not helping us blow through things faster, Tiki.
No, I know. I got to admit, Napoleon on paper looks really good. Ridley Scott is very hit or miss for me. I feel like his movies, writing-wise, can either be very good or very scattered. So I really don't. I still don't really know what to make of this. But I will say that the French Revolution and Napoleon's rise and fall, Dragon, it's absolutely some of the most fascinating history and like one of my favorite history subjects. So like I am a nerd for this kind of stuff the same way that, like I feel like I'm going to enjoy this on the same level that like people who were into the history of the atomic bomb enjoyed Oppenheimer on a level that I just can't. You know what I mean? Because I've been a French Revolution nerd since high school, so we'll see how it goes.
See, I know very little about Napoleon. A lot of what I do know about Napoleon were the fun facts that Spielberg gave us in the terminal. So I mean, look, I won't be seeing this in theaters. Got to be honest, the trailer did not instill confidence. Did not.
I think I like the trailer better than you did. I thought it was okay.
I mean, let me this way. I mean, I think like Napoleon, Napoleon the man, and like seeing the stature and all of what we're doing there with him. It's just like the battlefield stuff looked like, oh man, Ridley Scott's gonna like cover everything in darkness. We're doing the ice thing.
Yeah, that's my problem with Ridley Scott. Honestly, I do not like his aesthetic.
Yeah, that's on
whininess, like everything's literally like muddy.
Yeah, so that's what I'm visually I'm worried. I mean, the execution.
I totally feel you on that.
Yeah. All right. So moving past that, so the other thing that we did get at San Diego was we got Invincible stuff, a whole bunch of Invincible stuff. We had for Invincible season 2, we got the trailer, which I mean the majority of it is we had like a lot of like names announced.
I'm honestly not a Dragon. I'm going to be real with you, man. I have not been a fan of how Invincible has been marketing this season.
Well, again, Invincible's been on its heels because it took off like wildfire. Because the Invincible was always like a special silver bullet that Kirkman had in the chamber in case anything ever happened with Walking Dead. Because it was a story he did before The Walking Dead. It was very well loved, but it kind of fell by the wayside in the wake of The Walking Dead. So the fact that now that craze dissipated, now people are getting their first taste of Invincible, they become junkies for it. And they want it desperately because it's great. I want to say that story has an ending. You want to see it adapted. It's kind of like The Boys. There's an ending to this story, and we desperately want to see it.
Dragon, I just want to see that goddamn Freddie Mercury villain.
I know. We kind of, we're kind of teasing that up in this trailer a little bit. That wasn't him. I know you don't. We haven't gotten to him yet, but we're kind of building up the Viltrumites.
I know. That's why I'm kind of like annoyed that he was not in this trailer because that's literally all I want to see in this season.
That's the thing. I don't know if he's going to be in this season or season 3. That's the thing. Or at least
it could be that they build him. Yeah.
If he's going to appear, he'll appear at the very end of the season. I'll say that much. But the fact is, here's what we do get. The big tease that it's going to be a darker tone, which is saying something.
That is definitely saying something.
Because we're introducing the Viltrumites, and here's the big question, Dave. The big thing you should be concerned about: if you hear the name Conquest, Conquest is like the Bane of Invincible, and that guy shows up. He's like Bane and Doomsday had a baby with a mustache.
Oh God! Oh God!
Okay, that's Conquest. Run the other way when you see Conquest, and pray for a quick death.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when they look, I'm very hyped for Invincible. They're going to break it up into 2 halves, which I feel is gonna bite them in the end because people are going to want more. It's going to be kind of a Spider-Verse thing, but it's in terms of like, where's the rest of it? But Kirkman does say it's for dramatic purposes in the storytelling and also to buy more time when they're making it. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. He said there might be a dramatic break in the act. Well, we are getting this to sustain us in the meantime, though. Very excellently, they gave us like a little hour-long Adam Eve short. Well, not an Adam Eve kind of special, which is really good, all about her. her origins and everything.
Yeah, I still need to watch this. I was
recommend
trying to finish out Rebels, so
it was good. Also, they're doing like Invincible games, which unfortunately for the mobile phone, so they've lost my business.
oh jeez, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of the same.
Yeah. And had it been like a PS5 thing, I'd be absolutely there. Like,
Sure, sure.
yes. For all
Okay,
the things
Kogia says, I hope that the Napoleon film is secretly a Joker sequel where Arthur Fleck pretends to be Napoleon for the fun of it. That'd be fun. I'm disappointed that Oppenheimer wasn't about Alan Oppenheimer, the voice actor for Skeletor.
Yeah.
That is he related? That's actually pretty funny.
I'd be very shocked if he were related to that Oppenheimer thing.
Well, I mean, it's not like it's a common last name. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so next up, I will take the lead on this. Exorcist Believer. I'm cautiously optimistic about this, like very cautiously. I like David Gordon Green did some interesting stuff with his Halloween movies. Like I feel like all three of them had interesting concepts, but the execution just wasn't great. I kind of think it's probably going to be the same here. I will say though, with the element of the two girls, like I am getting kind of like a paranormal prisoners vibe, and so that element does intrigue me. And the fact that they are bringing back the mother. I don't know. I definitely think that tonally this needs to be a lot darker than any of the Halloween movies were. And I hope David Gordon Green realizes that, because The Exorcist and the Halloween franchise, like, they exist on two completely different planes of tone. So I guess that's probably my main concern with this. Do you have any thoughts at all?
It was nice how they used the music in the trailer.
Yeah, no, it was. I agree.
Okay. So,
all right.
Most recently, Loki season 2.
Yeah, they finally released a trailer, and the Jonathan Major stuff is just as awkward as I thought it would be.
Well, you can tell they're playing scared. Like,
yeah, you can tell they're like, oh, god damn it, we technically have to show him, but we really don't want to.
They also did the Ant-Man and the Wasp making of, little.
I did hear about that, yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, they're addressing it because he's a player. Whether people like it or not, he's a player, and they haven't really cast the judgment on him technically. So he's Kang, at least for the time being. He's still Kang. So let's just accept it.
I think this looks solid enough. I honestly am kind of worried that it's going to be a little too late. Maybe, I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, you got to admit, man, that Kikoi Kwan scene that we got was wonderful.
I mean, he's definitely one of the elements of the season I'm most excited about, for sure.
So, I mean, I don't know the whole,
And then whatever the hell that mutated Miss Minutes thing was going on, do you know anything about that?
Well, I know there's going to be a fight scene with Miss Minutes, and that's what that one is.
Yeah, that looked really cool. And Miss Minutes, honestly, for me, is probably my single favorite element of all of Loki. I love her design. I love her attitude. I love her vibe. Just perfect representation of that show. Anyways,
the big question is, like, is it going to be another story where, similar to Ant-Man, we're going to have. I wonder if we're going to have Loki win this season or not. Just given the fact that Kang, he's lost Ant-Man. At the very least, he's had a setback to Ant-Man, and it's going to be a question of, are we just going to do that again? Is Kang going to lose his power if we just keep kind of defeating at least our main Kang, seemingly being the case here, by these encounters? So, like, how are we going to feel really scared when he's going to be like tackling all of the Avengers, in the big Avengers movie down the line?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little curious about that, but I mean, I like the idea of pitting him against Loki in this kind of this time setting, and the fact that Loki has like that time mutation thing, not a mutation thing, but it's like he's skipping through time. Like, that's interesting. I like the posters they've been putting out for this season. I don't know, like Loki, seeing the trailers, like it's like seeing an old friend. Like, man, this is the vibe I like in Loki, and we're kind of leaning into it. I enjoy this kind of this feel for just Loki and Mobius just kind of going on an adventure together.
I mean, Mobius is also just obviously the other big highlight of Loki. So yeah, the more Mobius, the better.
And I'm going to paraphrase here: "Get that man a jet ski."
Yes, please.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see, really quick, just perusing the comments here. No, Code Geass, I absolutely agree with you about the tone thing with Exorcist and Halloween. I feel like we're right on the same page with that. Code Geass, I believe his trial, I just looked it up, his trial is set for, actually, wait. Hold on, sorry. Yeah, okay, I just wanted to be sure. That's actually a weird coincidence. His trial literally starts tomorrow.
That's the thing, Code Geass. Again, it is until proven guilty, so we don't know yet.
Right, but it's regardless, it's still
It's a big PR thing, and Disney's playing
Yeah.
scared very obviously, whether or not it's true or not. So they're doing they're trying to do damage control, and it's very apparent.
Kokia says Mobius is going on, but can we please get Morbius on the show?
No.
Also, Richard's victims. If Owen Wilson doesn't say "Wow," I'm not interested. That has to be his reaction to getting a jet ski. It has to be. All right, July 2023 movies. Let's do it.
Right, Oppenheimer.
Okay, Dragon, I'll let you go first. You and I we have not talked about this movie at all between the two of us, so I'm very curious to hear what you have to say.
All right, so Oppenheimer was a very bittersweet experience for me personally. My grandfather wanted to see this movie so badly, and the week it came out, he passed. So it was very bad.
Yeah, but obviously, my condolences on that.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons we didn't talk about Oppenheimer a little sooner. But, yeah, the point being, I like to think he'd love it because he was a great student of history and political corruption. He loved that sort of stuff. So at the end of the day, with the movie itself, compared to Nolan's other works, it's no Dunkirk structurally for sure, and it's no. I don't think it has like a flow and payoff like The Prestige. But Cillian Murphy, he's perfect as Oppenheimer, unequivocally. He's perfect as Oppenheimer. He's internalizing the conflict so well. This movie has got to get an Oscar for sound design. I love how we're exploring all the guilt that Oppenheimer has for his role in the bomb. Robert Downey Jr. is great. It's a very the thing that gobsmacks me in that movie is that Harry Truman scene.
Oh my God! Oh, I know. Get this little bitch out of here! I know that's not actually what he says, but
paraphrase, but yes. So of course, then the payoff to getting this nitty gritty. The payoff to everyone knows the end of this movie technically, but we're not going to lay out structurally what we do with it. But the payoff with Einstein is perfect in this film.
That was a great kind of I love how we check in on that every act. I feel like that is the best thing that Nolan does structurally is how he centers almost the whole film around that one moment.
We end this movie and we give our give Danny Jr. Give Strauss a great comeuppance, and we end things perfectly in this film. But I still though Nolan, Rohit and I got into the weeds on this when we broke it down. Is that Nolan still can't do romance to save his life. It feels like
no.
And it's for example, he pulls a Munich.
Poor Florence Pugh, man, I feel so bad for her.
Tiki, tell me if you had the same reaction as I did. Oh God, Nolan's pulled a Munich.
Yeah, kind of. I can see what you're saying.
He's like that scene at the end of Munich,
right?
With Eric Bana. Like, oh God, we're having this just tragedy unfold. It's getting busy.
So, Dragon. As you know, I walked out of first of all, the Barbenheimer thing of it all, I enjoyed doing it. I had a blast. It literally felt like a holiday. It is not the optimal way to watch this movie whatsoever. Nope. This movie needs to stand on its own. Because I got to tell you, man, I did not have the attention span after Barbie to digest this thing. So I definitely made a point to watch it a second time before this. For me, Dragon, I think it's very comfortably, I feel like with Nolan, the S tier of Nolan are three very distinct films: Dunkirk, The Dark Knight, and Inception. And then I think Oppenheimer is very comfortably right there at the top of A tier. I feel like this movie you literally need to watch it multiple times. I mean, it's so dense. It's so packed with stuff. Dragon, I feel like that little exchange with Rami Malek, like his reaction to the clipboard, that's already like a meme for us. It's so funny. Like, why'd you hit my clipboard? So I think that this movie, it face value, it very much is kind of just like a Wikipedia article of a movie, and that was kind of my main issue with it. Walking out of it was like, oh, okay, I guess I was literally just like, that was like a whole movie full of facts. But honestly, the nitty gritty, there is a shit ton of character work going on in this movie. I mean, a shit ton of it. It's just, it is a very dense movie as far as just like, like every one of Oppenheimer's, every one of the team members, every one of the, like the cast is stacked, and they all actually have things to contribute to the overall story, the overall theme. So yeah, it's just a very rich, densely packed movie. It just, I agree, it doesn't have the kind of like the wow factor of something like those other three that I mentioned. But I do think I'm going to keep coming back to it because I got a lot more out of it than I did the first time. And I have a feeling that going back to it, it's just going to play better and better. I do think for a 3-hour movie, it's exceptionally well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I do eagerly look forward to rewatching Oppenheimer. It won't be for a while though, but I look forward to seeing it because I know one thing is the Act 2 and 3 I feel are really strong. It's just, Act 1 takes a little while to get there, but that's intentional though. So it's kind of a thing you gotta wrap your mind because you are like Oppenheimer, eager to get to like fulfilling his
Sure.
But in fulfilling his desire, then it will take a dark turn. Like, oh god, what if I? And so honestly, the aftermath of the bomb to me is the most interesting part of the whole thing. It's like like literally that speech that he gives. We kind of with the sound design and everything. He's like,
oh my god, dude, that moment is legitimately more scary than the actual bomb.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
And the actual bomb, I love the way that it's filmed. I mean, what I love about the way that it's filmed is how ambiguous the actual size of it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The Prometheus quote too is the best. I think is the most genius kind of. I know the the title of the book that's kind of based on it's kind of obvious, but still the fact we open on the fire and the whole comparison to Prometheus, the fire, the bomb, and Prometheus. Oh, that's great.
But I love the putting the little marbles in the fish tank is the phrase, kind of like the oh boy, we're getting closer and closer. Mm-hmm. That is just a fucking like perfect like editing pacing magic trick, I think.
And the marbles are like the atoms and everything, yeah.
I mean, seriously, if this movie doesn't win best editing, I don't know what the hell is going on because the editing in this movie was just like a feat.
The double-edged sword with the editing, though, is that yes, the editing is great, but the way we shift between our plot lines, if you count that in the editing, that could count against it, though. But if you count for like the way we're editing our set, like our big payoff moments and everything, that on the other hand is really good.
I think it shifts pretty well. I think the only thing is that Robert Downey Jr. kind of dips out in the second act. But
the problem I have is like the dinner table stuff. I don't think we needed that.
I can see that. Yeah.
That's where I think we kind of throw the flow off, where it's like we're cutting between things. Like I think it gets a little confused. Like it feels.
I hear what you're saying.
If the big hearing, if the security clearance hearing was in black and white, like it feels like there's going to be a difficulty in distinguishing like the past and present because of where that ends up. Because we have two color things and one black and white thing. If we just kind of kept it half and half, I think I don't know. It's conflicting. Anyway.
And then just to shout it out, I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is just fucking out of control. I think it's probably his very best performance.
I mean, do you think there's some going to be some supporting actor?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think he's got to be a front runner. I would hope.
I would like to think. Plus, it's been kind of a slow year.
I mean, I honestly think on some level, like as good as Cillian Murphy is, and he's amazing. I honestly think Robert Downey Jr. is like almost toe-to-toe with him performance-wise.
He went the full Salieri, man.
Okay. Next up, okay, just to get the comments out here, Richard Victim says, like I said, my interest in World War II may make me a bit more into the movie than I would have been if I didn't have that. Yeah, maybe they were talking about something more important than you. That's that's like a massive ass payoff line.
I love it.
And I love who gets to deliver that line too, Dragon. I feel like that was his redemption.
It was.
Alden Ehrenreich.
Yeah.
I legitimately, he was one of the characters that really stood out on a rewatch, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Okay, next up, Barbie. Okay. Dragon, I gotta tell you, all the concerns you had about the way the real world stuff in this movie, the real world stuff takes up like maybe 15 minutes of screen time.
Really?
Yeah. Like, there is so much time in Barbie Land. Like, essentially, them going to the real world is basically like the catalyst for the rest of the plot. And so, Dragon, I think you're going to love this movie. I really do. Maybe politically it might be a little bit too on the nose for you, but here is my thing about the politics in this movie.
I mean, Barbie has always led the charge and that sort of thing, so it kind of
sure
to do that, right?
Rohit and I actually agreed on this comparison that I made, and this is going to sound like a really weird comparison, but I think as far as like just being a really, really sharp satire that is just very outwardly like almost like a call to arms about, about the social climate. This very much kind of reminds me of Strangelove, which is ironic given the bomb of it all.
Yeah.
I know that's weird, but I feel like both movies are very heightened. Both movies are kind of like very much, trying to take on very current issues. Obviously both movies have really, really big casts. Ryan Gosling, Dragon, he was already my guy before with La La Land, but I truly think Ryan Gosling as Ken is like Jack Sparrow, like Johnny Depp is Jack Sparrow levels of just instantly iconic. Like it is going to be his magnum opus of a performance. I mean, obviously the set design is impeccable. We spend a lot more time in Barbie Land than I actually thought we would. There's definitely some really fun deep cut stuff. It feels like the Lego movie if the Lego movie were a little bit more restrained and not like totally like ADHD and all over the place, which I love about the Lego movie. That's part of the Lego movie's charm. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like as far as the social satire goes, this thing is razor sharp, and I respect it for that. And the thing is, it is equal opportunity. Like it definitely pokes fun at men, but it also like there's a reason why the Ken thing is becoming so popular. Like I am Ken-uff. Like the Ken thing is very positive to Ken towards the end of the movie. And then with the Barbie of it all, Barbie literally gets called a fascist in this movie in a very ironic way.
Was George Lopez in this film?
No. In a very ironic way by a teenager who doesn't know any better, but still, it's like, we are calling shit out about both sides. It honestly feels, to me, I think probably Strangelove is the more kind of like heady comparison. I think the more accurate comparison as far as the satire goes is actually South Park, just as far as being like equal opportunity, like we're poking fun at everything. So yeah, the movie's just a blast. I think you're going to love it. I can't wait to get your thoughts on it. If it doesn't win production design, then I just don't know. I mean, obviously, I love Asteroid City's production design, and I still hope that movie gets nominated. But this just took it to another level. Like, if Asteroid City was like a small town, this is like a full city's worth of just like amazing production design. So, all right. Barbie is my second favorite film of the year, only beaten by The Flash. I still have not seen The Flash. I will give it a fair shot once it hits Max, which I assume at this point will be soon. It's a South Park sense of humor with the call of action thing of Strangelove. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's definitely a good way to put it. Okay, next up we have Justice League War World. Yeah. War World. All right. That's a fun title. War World.
Yeah. Yeah, this was the most recent entry into the Tomorrowverse. It's a bit of a mixed bag. Not a bad mixed bag in terms of like it's not a bad movie, but I think for as a standalone piece, I think you're just kind of thrown into the mix. So in that respect, I don't think it's going to be like on start to finish. Most people are going to get.
Mm.
Um, it's See, essentially, it's kind of like it was in the comics. It was kind of a revamped version of Mongol, who basically Mongol is the big this big yellow guy who wears purple, who basically was he ran World War, which essentially is like the Death Star, and that's a traveling like planet sized gladiator arena that he takes around, and he has people fight for him. And the modernized version of it is like, okay, he feeds off of the war, feeds off of aggression, war, and these sorts of feelings. So what he does is he basically beams these images into people that he abducts. In this case, being Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman, and basically he does like the Black Mercy to him. You remember for the man who has everything, where Superman got that flower on him. He imagined like the world in which Krypton did not blow up.
Vaguely, yeah,
The
kind
point
of.
being, it's like basically they kind of mixed the two concepts that were both connected to the bad guy. Like he got one up on Superman with the Black Mercy, and he has this big old gladiator arena called World. So yeah, basically what you do is the story is like three vignettes, and I like the structure. I like the idea structure wise. Like you have three acts. Like you have Wonder Woman in the Old West. You have Batman in like basically in Conan the Barbarian, like barbarian times, and then you have Superman in like a 50s B movie. So these are all really good like starting places for these characters. But here's the flaw I think they made in the structure of the movie. They all have kind of amnesia when they're placed here. So they're basically just like doing things instinctually, but they're not really the characters reacting to these situations, which I feel
Mm.
was the glaring. And I understand in some respect, it feels like they could have gone for a perchance the dream thing where we're thrown into the situation, but there still are characters and they're just kind of gleaming what's going on. But it just feels like if they don't know what's going on, I don't know. It's like we have a Batman who's like who's like he's essentially is like a mercenary killer in barbarian times, but that's not really Batman. That's Jensen Ackles playing him, and I love Jensen Ackles as Batman.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
I'm for the campaign. Like, hey, James Gunn, like get Jensen Ackles to play live
You know
action
what that kind
Batman.
of reminds me of? That reminds me of that one Joker offshoot where he
Mhm.
was basically just playing a mob boss, and it's like, yeah, it's not really the Joker. It's just a mob boss that has the Joker's design.
Right. Yeah, so that's the thing. So it's a great setup, and I do love the settings for these guys and those set pieces. But again, just lacking those characterizations, I think hurts it. But also the fact that we don't, to a general audience, we don't reveal that Mongols behind this until like the last 20 minutes of the movie, roughly. It feels like, yeah, people are going to be a little lost. And like, what's this Mongol guy's deal? What's this world place? What the heck's going on here? And then this is where things get complicated. The very end of the movie is set up for Crisis on Infinite Earths, which so that's the thing. We don't even finish this story really. And it's like, okay, this world's burned. We're gonna send you guys in the Crisis to fix everything. Like, wait, what? Like, we didn't even finish this one. These guys aren't ready for Crisis. They're still wet behind the ears. It's
Mm-hmm.
gonna. So it again. I think the animation's good at that. It's just it's fun, but it's just I did not have. I was really in this month. I was very much looking forward to this movie as like a pick me up, and this it didn't quite do the job. So, yeah.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was like I was really looking forward to at least something, man. But it was like my bereavement gift to myself, and just all right.
So honestly, Dragon, I feel like your reaction to that movie is very similar to my reaction to Haunted Mansion. Not the Haunted Mansion, it's literally just Haunted Mansion, which drives me fucking crazy. You don't even know. You
Curse
don't
you,
even know.
curse you, Murphy!
I'm just like, why? Why?
You took everything away
Well,
from
it's just
me.
like, are we really that desperate to disassociate it from the Eddie Murphy version? Really? Oh God. I'm sorry. I need to just not dwell on that. So, Dragon, here's the thing. This movie, as far as being an adaptation of The Ride, is definitely a lot better. I mean, this is the type of movie, if I saw this movie when I was like 14 years old, it literally would have been like my favorite movie ever. Like, because the ride stuff is done lovingly, it's done accurately. I actually really like that, much like the ride, there is a genuine build up to the ghosts, seeing the ghosts in their full form. And I do think that this movie has a really good cast. Like, Danny DeVito is essentially just playing Frank, I'm not gonna lie, but he's delightful. Owen Wilson is honestly more charming than I thought he would be. Lakeith Stanfield is a good lead. I actually really like that Lakeith Stanfield's character has some genuine social anxiety arcs. Like, it's actually probably the best representation of social anxiety that I've seen in movies. Just as far as just kind of like outwardly calling it out, like, yeah, you're gonna 90% of the time you're just gonna look like an asshole, even if you don't mean to be, because you don't know how to people right. And that is definitely the heart of his character. So yeah, those three kind of carry the movie, I think. Rosario Dawson is honestly fine, but she has one really great moment towards the beginning of the movie, Dragon. I'll kind of give it away because it's not really, it literally happens right at the beginning, where let's just say, like, the kid is very timid. They're moving into the mansion. This is like the second scene of the movie. The first scene sets up Lakeith Stanfield. So the second scene is her and her son moving into the mansion, you know, talking about like, oh, this is going to be a great fresh start for us. Just give it a chance. You know, the whole bit about like, I'm going to light a vanilla candle. It's going to be a game changer. Will it though? So there's this really great gag where you think that Rosario Dawson is just going to go the cliche route of like, you know, not seeing the ghosts and being like, honey, I know this is scary for you, but you're going to have to be a brave boy because we just moved here. But no, instead, she sees some shit right away and is like, we got to get the fuck out right now. Nope. Like, it's basically a nope moment. And that literally, like, them speeding away is what leads to the actual title reveal. And I thought that was great. Like, Dragon, in that moment, I was like, holy shit, this could be an awesome movie. If the rest of the movie kept up that tone, kept up that sense of humor, it would have been amazing. That really, like, I honestly feel like my expectations for the movie were kind of like unfairly lifted in that moment. I truly thought it was a great way to start. Unfortunately, Dragon, the problem with this movie begins and ends. You want to take a guess? In
the Haunted Mansion.
No, like specifically, what problematic element of this movie?
Why don't you tell me?
Leto.
Oh.
Leto is the Hatbox Ghost. He does not need to be the Hatbox Ghost. For one thing, they very easily could have just gotten Corey Burden. It legitimately sounds like Corey Burden. I am convinced that it actually, I want to just in my own headcanon think that it is Corey Burden. The problem with the Hatbox Ghost, I think in theory, he is a good idea as far as like he is a ghost that is basically like the main villain that's haunting the other ghosts. And I think that's a clever idea. Although I will say that Constance Hatchaway in this movie is very much kind of like a throwaway minion, and that makes me so sad. Like they totally did Constance Hatchaway dirty. I guess they figured that since she was the main villain in Muppet Haunted Mansion, they wanted to change it up, but still.
That's the only question I really have about this thing. Did it do it better than Muppet Haunted Mansion to you?
No. Muppet Haunted Mansion is definitely the best of the three.
Okay.
Here's the problem with the Hatbox Ghost. Dragon, it's a classic thing where there's too many goddamn rules for him, and it just absolutely bogs down the whole second and third act of the movie. The rules for him are so complicated. There's a MacGuffin where they have to find his hat, like his actual hat in the real world, and why, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. The movie very much gets bogged down in trying to over-explain the lore. There's a lot of good stuff going on, though. Like, I am anxious to rewatch this thing. And I do think it's going to be a really solid Disney Plus Halloween release. Which, rest assured, folks, we didn't have time to get it in this month, but I think it's going to fit better into Haunted Holiday Hijinks, assuming that it's actually up on Disney Plus in time. Assuming that's up on time, we'll definitely talk about it then. But, yeah, man, it's... You want to know my really hot take about this movie, Dragon?
What do you got?
I feel like as Haunted Mansion fan service, this is definitely better. As an actual film, I can't believe I'm saying this. I kind of prefer the Eddie Murphy version. The reason I say that is because this movie is very tonally confused. Plot-wise, it's all over the place. It tries to like tug at the heartstrings. Like, I like what it's trying to do as far as, you know, like kind of like the tragedy and the comedy sort of going hand in hand. That is a very New Orleans thing. Like the opening credits literally take place over like one of those classic, like, you know, New Orleans style upbeat funeral parade sessions, which I thought was a good choice. But they just get way too saccharine and syrupy with the with the emotion, and they go way too hard on it, and just tonally it just really, really clashes. And you know me and clashing tone, Dragon. If it's not done right, it can derail shit for me. So yeah, I don't know. My argument for the Murphy version, it's definitely not a better adaptation of the ride. Don't get me wrong. This is way better if all you're wanting is just sheer fan service. But as a movie, I appreciate that the Eddie Murphy version legitimately did have a vision for what it was going for. And that was essentially to be an homage on like the Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein style, like, you know, comedians, like famous comedians crossing over with monsters. That's essentially what that movie tries to do. And I gotta tell you, looking at it through that lens, just not as a Haunted Mansion movie, but just as an Eddie Murphy comedy, I think it does it fine. It's not the best Eddie Murphy movie by a long shot. It's not the worst by a long shot either. But with this, the highs are definitely higher, but there is nothing in the Eddie Murphy version that makes me scratch my head the way that the over-convoluted rules of the Hatbox Ghost make me in this new version. So it's a very mixed bag. I would say probably overall the new version is definitely probably better. But I think for me, I could see myself rewatching the Eddie Murphy one more as an actual film. So yeah, I don't know. But again, I am excited to revisit it just for the fan service of it all. I mean, there is literally like layers upon layers of fan service in this thing. So if all you're wanting is just the mansion fan service and you don't care about the over convoluted plot, like I said, as 14-year-old me, before I became cynical and jaded to movies, this literally would have been my favorite thing ever. So I acknowledge that. All right.
Okay. Let me tell you about Wham.
Wham! All right.
Yeah, so this is a documentary on Wham, which I think it starts strong. It starts strong, but then it gets a little by the numbers. That's not the. It's not, I don't have a huge attachment to Wham, but I do like the songs I heard from it. The other is, on a very surface level, I think you'd find this like, I didn't know that song was them. How nice, how quaint. So in that sense, I think it's enjoyable. But I'm just not out of my mind over it like I hoped I would be, just given how it started. I thought it was it's a nice little like little memory scrapbook of sorts for Wham. I forget if they used the Deadpool footage made the cut or not for this, and all the footage that was selected for. I don't think it did, because I think I will remember that, but if I did, it's a missed opportunity.
Of course.
It's the whole just one gag of like Ryan Reynolds saying like "Wham!" They earned the exclamation point with that album. But it's a nice little kind of like basically seeing the process of how George Michael's kind of worked his magic. It's nice.
Okay.
Not a whole lot there. Just,
For sure. All right, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, which again, dumb, but whatever. I mean, they could have literally just called the sequel something else. I mean, it does directly lead into a sequel, but not in a Spider-Verse kind of way. So Dragon, this is definitely, I would say, out of the Mission Impossible movies I've seen, it's solid. I would say the reason to see it is definitely Haley Atwell. I'm very, very happy for her that she got to be in a big movie like this. It's unfortunate that this movie just, like, I do feel bad for this movie. It just did kind of come out at the wrong time. It got eaten alive by Barbenheimer. I mean, it's not a flop per se, but it really underperformed from what it could have done. I will say that having not caught every Mission Impossible movie, like basically I've only seen 3 and Fallout. So I need to catch up on the Brad Bird one and then also Ghost Protocol. So there's some Ghost Protocol stuff in particular that I was kind of lost on as far as like returning characters and stuff. Dragon, Rebecca Ferguson in this movie gets fridged so hard. It is a bad, and it's really bad.
Really?
And it's especially bad just because it's like, okay, Haley Atwell's in this franchise now. I guess we can't have 2 women who kick ass.
It did really feel like, they were struggling for stuff to do with Rebecca Ferguson in the last movie. She played his wife, didn't she?
No, she didn't. No, it wasn't his wife. No.
Who played his wife in the last movie?
I forget, but Rebecca Ferguson was like another spy. Like she was Dragon. Her character was honestly kind of like the reason people are pissed about this is her character was kind of primed to be like the next Ethan Hunt if Tom Cruise were to ever retire, which obviously that's probably never.
He'll die before he retires. And we're
I know.
The macabre thing.
He really said he wants to make Mission Impossible movies into his 80s, which I think is insane, but whatever.
He's not going to make it to his 80s.
Right. So with this movie, do you know what the main conflict in this movie is?
Not really. No, not this time.
It's actually artificial intelligence, believe it or not.
Huh.
Which is like, it's basically like this kind of like supercomputer, like master control unit version of AI that's essentially fucking with the spy stuff. Like, like basically like manipulating security footage, manipulating files, all that kind of stuff. And it is pretty compelling. I don't think it's quite as good as Fallout as far as the plot goes. Like, it just, the villain in this movie just does not have the presence of Henry Cavill. I feel like
he have a mustache?
Yeah, no, he doesn't come back.
No, I mean, does he have a mustache? I'm saying, does this new villain
have
a mustache?
Honestly, he's so unmemorable that I don't even remember.
Oh, Tiki.
But I will say though, this movie, that last action scene on the train, holy shit! I mean, goddamn, they really went all out with that, man. It's pretty spectacular. But the thing is, I feel like this whole movie, outside of just like the solid chemistry of Haley Atwell, and then also there's a good car chase in the second act in Rome. Outside of those 2 elements, it's kind of just coasting on the charm of like, you got Tom Cruise and you got Benji and Luther on the side. So I don't know. It's not a great movie, but it does have a really spectacular, genuinely very, very well done action scene. And you know me, I'm not usually a fan of action scenes. This one was just very, very creatively pulled off. So overall, I'd give it a recommend for Haley Atwell, but she is definitely probably the strongest element. Okay.
Let me tell you about Glitch, the rise and fall of HQ Trivia.
Yeah, this one I probably would have watched if not for the fact that it's just going to be a really easy thing to add to my catch-up next month.
Yeah, this is a solid doc I think you'd really like. It's the guys who created Vines, like what the heck a Vine was. The guys who created Vines did a game
Vine was
show.
essentially proto-TikTok, right?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
So the guys who created the Vine craze did a game show that you could through your phone, essentially. which for a while basically was a huge fad. It was quite the fad. And basically, kind of success and egos ultimately tanked it, and yeah, it was apparently there's some opinions on this film that things were like emotionally manipulated or like skewed to be a little bit more forgiving towards the host of the show. I mean, I don't know. It seems pretty clear cut to me though when you look at it. Like, I don't think there's a lot of manipulation going on there. I feel it's like, well, I don't want to just say like, well, he's just telling it how it is, but it just feels like you don't really have much to gain. There's not really much wiggle room. That sounds like, the thing is, the app isn't around, and the show isn't around anymore. I don't think he's getting really anything from it. It just sounds like a sad situation. He's just kind of laying out there, and there's some evidence that's kind of put out there. Like, we see like pictures and postings and everything from it. I don't know, but yeah, it's again, it's sort of like let's see again, it's kind of interesting seeing like kind of a game show, kind of a game show in a modern context of the smartphone era, just kind of like the trial and error there. Just the fact like, hey, we got a game show. We're going to be like this. Does it seem like a fad run its course, but in the smartphone generation is kind of an interesting kind of component to the story. I felt so. It's a well put together deck. I liked it. I think I liked it more than Wham.
All right. Okay, let me tell you about Talk to Me. Talk to the hand. Literally, that's literally the plot of the movie. The hand that you see in the trailer, Dragon, or in the poster, I should say. It's literally like a disembodied ceramic hand. They talk about like there may or may not actually be a human hand under it. That's kind of like part of the mystique of it. And for some reason it is used to communicate with the dead. They don't really overly explain it. They leave it very ambiguous. And fucked up shit happens. It's a metaphor for drugs. And it is genuinely one of the scariest movies I've ever seen.
Wait, the Talk to that disembodied hand movie is about drugs?
It's a metaphor for drugs. It's very much a metaphor for addiction and drugs and like getting that rush. Teenage party culture is very much a part of the movie. Social media is very much a part of the movie. This movie, I don't think it's as good as Hereditary, but it is definitely the most disturbing thing I have seen since Hereditary. I mean, it is that level of... There are standalone sequences in this movie that are just an absolute gut punch. Like I said, I don't think it's as wall-to-wall, just like Hereditary is just a masterwork in that regard. Like, literally every scene of Hereditary makes you want to fucking crawl out of your skin in the best way. My only issue with it is that with it being a movie centered on teenagers, there is like kind of like an annoying love triangle plot line that the boyfriend kind of goes through the ringer in the movie, but I don't think the plot really helped the movie. But just as far as like the standalone sequences, the ending is a killer. It's instantly iconic horror movie ending. Instantly iconic horror movie ending. Like, it is up there with the best horror movie endings. Yeah, and it doesn't use jump scares. It really just instead uses the idea of the main character's life kind of like unraveling around her because she keeps using this hand. Dragon, the whole idea with the drug metaphor is she keeps using the hand to try and communicate with her dead mother. And essentially it's like showing it's not like a 1-for-1, but the directors pretty much said that they actually based the movie off of a viral clip that they saw of just a group of teenagers filming a really bad reaction to a drug. I forget which one it was. And just kind of like the malaise that teenagers feel and that kind of thing, where it's like, oh, someone is like clearly in like very, very bad distress. I'm going to fucking whip out my phone because this could make some good content. The movie very much leans into that, very much leans into the social media angle in, I think, probably the most disturbing way I've ever seen in a movie in this modern era with, now that smartphones and stuff are just a very, very common thing in movies just in general. I mean, just the element of like anything that you do while you are possessed could immediately just be filmed and be gone viral and make a kind of ruin your life. I don't know. That again, that's kind of where the drug metaphor kind of stems from. I know you haven't seen this movie, but the movie It Follows, that is very much kind of like an allegory for STDs. It's kind of like a safe sex movie, if anything. And this is very much in the same way. It is.
Well, technically, all the Friday the 13th movies are safe sex movies.
That's true. That's true. But this is very much kind of like it's using the horror movie genre to explore the idea of like how addiction can tear someone apart. And yes, Richard's Victims, you're right. It is because the directors know a lot about content. That's probably accurate. Believe it or not, Dragon, this is a debut film from a couple of, I believe they're brothers, Australian filmmakers. Dragon, I kid you not, the thing that they got big off of on YouTube was making a horror movie or a horror series starring Ronald Goddamn McDonald as the serial killer.
Huh.
Yeah. I need to watch it. I haven't checked it out yet.
I might need to look into this too. I wonder if it's any good.
I'm sure it probably is, although
I wonder if it's going to be him actually serious.
Honestly, if it's anything like this movie, though, you might have a hard time with it. I imagine it's probably a little bit more lighthearted than this movie, but I don't know. Like, the thing is, I don't know if it's supposed to be like the real Ronald McDonald or just a serial killer dressed as Ronald McDonald. Richard's Victims, if you could clarify that in the comments, that'd actually be helpful. But yeah, like I said, I don't think this movie is like a masterpiece in the same way that Hereditary is, but it is iconic. I mean, it is like that ending alone is just, again, it is one of the all-time great horror movie endings, and I do not say that lightly. All right, finally, Joyride. This is a pretty fun movie. It's basically like a Dragon, essentially, it's an all-female version of The Hangover. There's a little bit more to it than that. It's about kind of like a group of all Asian female friends. It very much explores kind of like Asian identity. The main two friends, one of them is adopted to a white family, and the other is very much like, her parents were Chinese immigrants, so there's kind of like that culture clash going on. They're on a business trip to China that goes awry, and shenanigans ensue. And the plot is not important. It's very much a shenanigans movie. It's a lot of fun. There's one character in particular. I think she's the cousin of one of the main characters, and honestly, one of the standout comedic performances of the year for me. Like, not as iconic as Gosling is Ken, but yeah, the woman who plays Deadeye, that's the name of the character, Deadeye, is just a wonderful comedic performance. The movie itself, it's fine. There's actually a really charming and moving little appearance by frickin' Daniel Day Kim, of all people, at the end. He plays the like the man that her birth mother. God, I'm sorry. He plays kind of like a father figure to the main character, but he meets her in the third act. Anyways, I'm sorry. That's too much exposition. Yeah, it's a fun movie. I just think my only complaint with it, and this is kind of just a taste thing, it goes really broad with the sex, like really broad, as in like I'm genuinely kind of surprised it's not NC-17 broad. And again, that's like, I'm sure it's, like, again, like, it's just a taste thing. I get nothing out of that kind of stuff. Fortunately, it's not the whole movie, and the heart of the movie is the character interactions, and the character interactions work great. But yeah, when that stuff is in focus, I don't love it. All right. Okay, moving on to TV. Secret Invasion. I feel like we pretty much said all we needed to say with that episode 6 recap. I think it started out having a lot of potential, but man, this needed to be about twice as long as it was. and just all of it just really felt half-baked by the end. I
It
don't
feels like the performances kind of distracted us from the. There's you have like Sam Jackson.
The performances carried the show, yeah.
Sam Jackson's given an excellent performance here, along with Kingsley Benadir, Olivia Colman, and Ben Mendelsohn. But it's basically all serves like a distraction for like from the fact that like we have major limitations on this adaptation. One, it's
Literally
a short run.
nothing. I feel like almost nothing actually happens in this show. That's the thing. The plot is so scattered. I mean, I know obviously stuff happens, but the plot is so scattered.
The fact that we can only really work with Rhodey here. I mean, that was kind of the biggest like, oh my god, Rhodey's been a Skrull, and we kind of confirmed by the end he's been a Skrull since Civil War. I found out there's a clue that actually confirms that it was since Civil War, where he's wearing the he's wearing the hospital gown from right after his accident. That's when they got him.
Okay, that makes sense.
Anyway, so but yeah, that's the thing. I mean, plus, I mean, when this thing premiered,
This should have been an Avengers movie, straight up.
Yeah, but
the whole appeal of Secret Invasion is that like you don't know who is going to be a Skrull, and I feel like this show's biggest fault is the fact that like you can guess that Rhodey's a Skrull by like episode 3, and there's literally no one else that you're like, I don't know, that guy may or may not be a Skrull. Like there's no intrigue.
It missed kind of the point of the story, but I can understand they can't do a full-on Avengers thing because right now the Avengers are kind of disbanded, but it's like,
I'm just saying they should have saved the concept for an Avengers movie.
That's true. Anyway, that's the thing. I think now this is probably plus the AI opening is very ill-timed to say the least.
Oh man, yes. Oh god.
I'm not saying that like makes the show like automatically bad or anything.
And it's like 2 minutes long too. It's so long, and that the long intro and the long credits and the short run times, and that's another thing about episode 1 that lulled us into a false sense of security, right?
It was the first 2 episodes rather dense in a good way.
Like,
admittedly, again, I told you this. 1, I was a little worried, but episode 2 really got me hyped, and then it kind of went on from there in terms of like these things were good, and then it was like, wow, we're episode 5 and 6 were really a huge drop in momentum, and then our best moments of Nick Fury we reveal aren't actually with Nick Fury. Which is really like, man, that's a shame. Anyway. So you feel kind of gypped by the end of it. So let's just say, again, I'm not really a ranker, especially now what we got with our Marvel Disney Plus series. But let's just say I think collectively it's probably lowest on the totem pole.
I definitely think it's the bottom of at least for the MCU series. It's definitely.
I loved it when we had moments that were akin to Winter Soldier, but there were few and far between ultimately. Okay.
Okay, next up, let's see. We got Superpowered, the history of DC. Okay.
I'm sorry, I meant to correct this. The DC story. So Superpowered, the DC story.
Okay. So Dragon, honestly, I was initially kind of skeptical about this just because it was on Max, and I was like, okay, it's just gonna basically be like a puff piece about the DCEU or whatever you're fucking calling it now.
It's DC, the company. It's not just about the movies. But
yeah, I know, but it being on Max, I was worried that it would focus on the movies. And I gotta tell you, Dragon, like I think this is good. It's solid. It does, but the structure of it bothers me in regards to like. I feel like every episode they have to, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like every episode they kind of have to like tie in something that's been going on with like the recent DC stuff. So I feel like there is too much of a focus on the recent DC stuff. But what is there is good. It's just frankly kind of no information that I don't really already know. And I definitely think out of the Leslie Iwerks documentaries, it's definitely the one that feels the most like it's just kind of like, it's not bad. It's just kind of like sort of not very substantial. I don't know. I didn't really get a lot out of it.
There have been a couple of DC, the history of DC documentaries.
Well, you know what I still think is like the crown jewel. This isn't just DC, but that one History Channel documentary. You know what I'm talking about?
I bought the DVD of the History Channel documentary.
That is genuinely like that is all you fucking need for the history of comics, man. That thing is so well done.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's great. Point being, this is a bit of an update. So, I mean, I gotta tell you, what's kind of nice and refreshing is the fact that we finally addressed the whole Bill Finger thing in a public forum. On like, since the last time we did was obviously the big, the Batman Bill documentary, but like now it's like it's out there in the world now. So in updating things, it's kind of nice to call out Bob Kane for what he did and like highlight Bill Finger, and that was nice. I mean, we have some. I think we have nice beats that we and think progressions that we track within the three episodes, like Jim Lee's kind of path in comics. So we end up on the head on the top of the totem pole, working from kind of like I just get breaking into the business. Jeanette Kahn and the importance of the stuff that she did. Like episode 2 is the '70s stuff in Crisis on Infinite Earths. The third episode is when we do a lot of the breaking the boundaries kind of stuff. Where that's the modern landscape thing, which feels like the things that we kind of intercut into the other stuff could have been almost entirely saved there, but it feels like they were afraid of that's obviously going to be the most divisive part because the modern takes on DC are very progressive and to a broad audience you might have a lot of dissenting opinions. I'll tell you one thing I charmed the heck out of me about this though. Gene Lewin Yang uh, was on there. Gene Lewin Yang, I met this guy. He is awesome. Gene Lewin Yang. He did Superman Smashes the Klan, and the way he talked about it here and just kind of like laying out the whole, he just wanted to do kind of an homage to classic Superman, but also kind of like something relevant at the same time. Like it was nice that we got him in there, kind of laying the ground for talking about Superman, what he stands for, and everything. That was nice. And someone, I don't think it was Gene, but it was somebody in the documentary made an excellent point about Superman, saying might have been DeMatteis. I'm not sure. Just the fact that Superman, the reason he works is that he represents basically represents at his core like he's a challenge to the corruption of the world. This is a guy who like will not bend and will not break to like everyone thinking the worst of him. Just I don't know. I know it's like obvious, but the fact that I've never heard like distilled down to that, and I thought it was really nice.
okay.
Yeah, I mean overall, look, you're right. It's not setting the world on fire, but you know what? I thought it was a nice like repackaging of things. I think I was put nice polish on. I thought it was as good as it could have been. However, I will say this though: The Rock did not deserve to be in this.
No, 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 no.
Did not
Hey,
deserve
hard
it.
agree. Hard agree.
They pulled a lot of nice footage from things, but we did not need. I didn't want The Rock's
And
fingerprint.
that's kind of what I'm talking about in regards to just like, oh, excuse me, sorry. Um, Jesus, I'm sorry. In regards to, like I like all the history stuff. Like I definitely the Bill Finger stuff was nice to see for sure. But I just think there's too much of a focus on like the current celebs and especially The Rock. He was especially
Well,
not
he was only
welcome.
in it at the end, really. So at least they kept it minimal, but still
Yeah.
should have been in.
All right. So Sweet Tooth. This is definitely kind of like on my list of like, okay, now that there's literally no content coming out, I'm gonna have to get around to it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is yet another thing Netflix is going to be in a bind with this strike because it's another show with a young protagonist. Where man, they really gotta get the strike over with.
Oh man, that's a good point.
That's
I
the
mean,
thing.
they
So
can always do a time jump, right?
I mean, I guess technically they. I mean, I guess with Sweet Tooth would be easier doing the other two shows. Because think about it, right now, Netflix's big three shows they have that still. Here's all three of these shows have young protagonists. And they all have their last seasons going to. Sweet Tooth is going to be wrapping up with season 3. It's going to be the last season for it. So you have, you have Cobra Kai, you have Strange Things. You got
Is
Sweet Tooth.
Cobra Kai shot? Is that in the can? Do you know?
No, I didn't finish because again, otherwise they
Son
would
of
have.
a bitch! God damn it! That pisses me off. We
I
can't
think
have nice things, Dragon.
I know. Otherwise, they would have released it around the time of Blue Beetle had it been done. Okay, so Sweet Tooth season 2, season 1 ended on a dramatic, kind of a dramatic downbeat cliffhanger in which we've separated our kind of our buddy duo of Big Man and Gus. Sweet Tooth is Gus. Essentially, season 2 is a rescue mission. We got to save Gus and the rest of the hybrid animal kids that we reveal that we kind of paid off at the end of the first season. So they're saving him from the evil general guy, General Abbott, who looks exactly like Hugo Strange. It's a very memorable visual for this guy. He looks like comic books Hugo Strange.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, yeah. So, long story short, we get into Gus's backstory and the world building in this season, and it's really good stuff. And we get into a little bit of everyone's backstory, which is rather tragic, particularly his backstory and Big Man. We already knew Big Man's story, but we did not see like the moment that really turned them dark, and we get that this season. It's really sad. But yeah, here's the thing: we have like 3 plot lines in the show, and I think 2 out of 3 of them work really well. Bear is like kind of like a rebel kind of character. He's like befriends our guys, and she's a good character. It just feels this season we everyone's like heading to save Gus. So it feels like she's on her own path to do that. And her path to do that was like a little more winding than it should have been. It's like she kind of joins the bad guys like in the last man army to kind of get to the kid. It feels like we really dragged our runtime for that one. Otherwise, I think it's a well paced.
Like Yellow Jacket season 2.
Maybe, but yeah, it's like this way. It's not an ill-paced season. It just feels like every time we get to her story, it's like, we've hit a bit of a lull, but then we're gonna get back to the good stuff. Yeah,
right.
But again, I still seriously highly.
It's frustrating when it happens to good characters too.
And like her stuff's not bad. It just feels like the momentum of the season's really good, and then we just kind of like slow it down. And here's another person who's heading to the same destination. Only it's going to be a longer wait.
Sure.
But yeah, I still highly recommend Sweet Tooth to you. Okay.
All right. Let's see. Next up. Okay, Muscles and Mayhem, an unauthorized story of American gladiators. Yeah, Dragon, this to me, like, this was definitely, like, probably the comfort watch for me. I actually think I probably would have preferred it to be maybe edited down a little bit into a movie. But, I mean, it does, like, every episode does definitely have its purpose, from the origin to the steroid stuff to the pop culture. I think my favorite episode was just episode 3 for all the the action figures and everything, because that's kind of like the big stuff that I really know this show from. I'm actually, I think I've told you this before, I'm actually much more familiar. Like I watched a fair amount of the reboot of American Gladiators, the one that Gina Carano originated from. So I'm kind of like tangentially familiar with this franchise, but no, I mean, it's a really fun watch for sure. I love the animation. I love in episode 1, the one guy, oh God, Dragon, remind me, he looked like Santa Claus or something? Remind me.
I can't recall.
It was like the one guy who was like pitching the show, and he like had a very distinct look. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on it, but it was a really fun. Oh, Elvis!
Oh, that guy.
You remember the Elvis guy?
Yeah, I remember that. He said Santa Claus, but yeah.
Well, Santa Claus, Elvis, same thing.
Oh yeah,
I don't know. I'm just thinking like a really like famous pop culture thing,
That's the same thing. Yeah, right.
All right. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a lot to add. It's just a very, very, very digestible show. It honestly kind of reminds me of like the old VH1 sort of like behind the music. It kind of reminds me of that sort of format. Obviously, it's not music, but it definitely has a VH1 feel to it, which I appreciated.
Yeah. All right. So let me tell you what my mystery show was.
Okay.
Jury Duty season 1.
Oh, hell yes! All right.
Yeah, because I remember you glowing about it, and I was like, I stumbled upon it, and I was like,
Dragon, like I said, Marsden is the reason to watch it, right?
I mean, yeah, but also, Tiki, I'm familiar with the Joe Schmo show, so seeing, like, basically an update on the Joe Schmo show was rather
it's just inherently, it's just kind of like a much more, like, good-spirited version of the Joe Schmo.
That's what I'm saying. It's a much more, it's not mean-spirited. It's rather, I love, like, the moral kind of reward of this whole thing. It's a great
Dragon, tell me the one thing I'm dying to know about this show and your take on it. How adorable was the Bug's Life scene?
It was really great, and the fact that he wanted to be an inventor like
oh my God.
Yeah, but seriously, I really love this, man. This was I'm not a reality show guy, but I love this. This was I think it's a great binge. I don't know if they released it as a binge or not, but however they did it was the way I watched it and binging it was great. Again, it says it's courtroom version of the Joe Schmo show, which is just an excellent way of rebooting that concept. Because it's kind of law and order, justice.
I mean, the documentary on the face of it doesn't sound too interesting, right? Like, okay, what's jury duty like? Let's find out.
Yeah, but the fact that we have this. By the way, tell me that the Ron character, Ron, this Ron guy, instead of the average Joe, the average Ron, I suppose.
Yes, yes.
Tell me he didn't remind you of Grant Gustin.
Honestly, not in the moment. I could see it. He kind of has that energy.
I think I just kind of like he just has a lot of that kind of the laid back Grant Gustin.
I could see it. I could see it.
He's all smiles and Canadian kind of charm. Factor,
Sure,
I don't know.
sure.
But yeah, I know. It's just, I love that it was like a celebration of the goodness of how the goodness of humanity triumphs. James Marsden's a lot of fun, and the idea
James Marsden literally got an Emmy nomination for this, and I'm stoked about that.
It's just the fact that he was a great red herring and smokescreen, essentially. Like
totally,
in case anyone's doubting, like if for a moment he's going to think they're actors here, there's literally an actor there. That's right.
Exactly. It's perfect.
Yeah.
And oh my god, I think my favorite moment in the whole thing was the judge kind of calling out like, do you know who John Ratzenberger is, young man? Yeah. John Ratzenberger served in my court, and he was a model juror.
God, it's great.
The judge is just like a big John Ratzenberger fan, yet has no idea who Marsden is.
No, I love that. The Family Guy joke was priceless.
Oh yeah, right. But the great thing about it is like all this comic stuff, like obviously the more broad stuff, like like the one sex gag with Marsden and the and the couple, the jumping on the bed thing. Obviously that's all staged, but a lot of the inherent comedy in situations really are just natural reactions, which is great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm really glad you enjoyed this as much as you did. That definitely wasn't pretty much your feel good show of the month.
I will give it that. It happened before all the bad stuff, so I don't think it counts. But it was, right. It did make me feel pretty good. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Speaking of feel good, The Good Cop.
Yeah, how'd you feel about The Good Cop?
I mean, it's pretty much exactly what I was expecting, Dragon. It's a comfort watch, I liked it. I do think it's got some good stuff going for it. I do kind of like how Tony Danza is kind of like the main sort of like driving force of whatever the actual plot is. I mean, Josh Groban, Dragon, I was intrigued as soon as I heard Josh Groban, and he does kill it. I will say, I'm curious to get your take on one scene in particular, the quarter scene.
The quarter scene?
In the bowling alley?
No, I know what you're talking about. I just want to make sure you're talking about the quarter scene, not like so you'd say corner or something. But yeah, so
the quarter scene where he freaks, he fucking throws a fit over like wanting to return a quarter to somebody.
I forget if Andy Breckman in real life has OCD or not. I forget. I know he has like a little bit of it. I don't know if he has like in case of. I'm just saying I bring this up because Andy Breckman did The Good Cop and did Monk. And if I recall, I think he did.
The reason I bring up the quarter scene and why I'm kind of like interested in your take is I feel like that's about the most broad that the comedy goes, and I personally enjoyed it. But I've heard other people be like, "Yeah, that was stupid." Honestly, I love the bowling episode. I think that was probably my favorite episode.
Yeah, here's the thing. I rewatched Good Cop a while back, and I did still like it. Here's the thing. I like that, there was a little. Again, I love what Groban's character is because I love he's just a very moral rule following kind of guy, and his father's such a great diametric opposite to him in terms of this guy's all about bending the rules, and he's still beloved and everything. I just love that dynamic and that cell.
It's a great dynamic, yeah.
The bowling episode is fun, but I just feel so bad for him. It's revealed like they feel, oh man, we're making him cocky and it's gonna backfire.
But I really enjoy the standalone episodes. I really do.
Yeah.
It's honestly kind of refreshing to have standalone episodes.
Yeah.
In an era like with Secret Invasion where every episode is connected, but it's all just kind of leading to nothing.
Here's a question.
Okay.
How did you feel about the cute little newspaper thing at the end of the end of the episodes?
Oh yeah, no, that was fun. Definitely.
Yeah.
I really like how It feels like this guy kind of has a lot of like little traditions like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so overall, not the deepest thing in the world, not groundbreaking television by any means, but I enjoyed it, and frankly, it kind of made me yearn for the days of episodic television. Honestly, I feel like that was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
All right.
So let me tell you about Superman and Lois seasons 2 and 3. So Superman's been on my mind lately because of the new animated show, which I'm eager to talk about once it wraps up.
When is that wrapping up? By the way,
Well, it's going for 10 episodes, and this week's going to be the 6th episode. So it's
okay. So we still got a ways to go. I'm probably going to just binge it. Honestly,
it's really good.
My dad really likes it, which I honestly find surprising. He's kind of a tough critic when it comes to animated stuff.
Yeah, the big question is how we respond there. Apparently, everyone's freaking out about the 5th episode, but anyway. So, so basically Superman being on my mind recently. I always meant to get caught up on Superman and Lois, and the fact that the 4th season that's coming up will be its ending. It's like the last remnant of the crumbled civilization.
Oh, that's interesting.
Literally every other show is not getting renewed or canceled and everything, so it's the last one.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, here's the thing though. It's the last one, I think, for a reason that at least Superman and Lois has always shown potential. In seasons 2 and 3, I mean, again, the fact of the matter is the show's trapped in a premise that I feel had hindsight, it would have like altered it for the life of it, where it's like, hey, if they have any self-awareness, it would have been, yeah, we're kind of stuck with the teenage sons, and we don't really.
Yeah, that kind of like I watched the first like 3 episodes, and I just couldn't do it with the teenage stuff.
I gotta be honest with you, man. Tyler Hoechlin, that little boy from Road to Perdition, he is a great Superman. He's the best part of the show. He's wonderful. That's the thing. So I always kind of like tune out when the sons show up. And that's the thing. If they were either, it's a shame we just couldn't have them as kids, because if they were like 2 10-year-old boys or something, they're like teenagers, like actual teens, not like like Stranger Things era teens. I think it would have played a lot better. But season 2 gives us Bizarro Superman in a really cool way. And actually, essentially, long story short, what they kind of do is they correlate. Bizarro has an arc throughout seasons 2 and 3. Bizarro turns into Doomsday.
Oh, wow.
In a very interesting way that I don't think anyone expected. We bring back Lex in a really cool way. Again, and sadly, not John Cryer. They threw out the continuity at a certain place. They threw up their hands like, we don't care anymore. We're going to get a new guy for Luthor. But he was good. It was a different take on Luthor. It was a very blue-collar take on Luthor, believe it or not. It was very interesting. I think you'd really like it. I don't know. But, so season 2, let me put it this way. The way it breaks down, season 2 is the Bizarro season, but has sidled with a cult plot, and I hated the cult plot.
Oh, goddamn CW, man. They can't help themselves.
When Bizarro Superman shows up, things are excellent. Things are great. But then it's like, how do we get the Bizarro Superman? Well, we have a cult plot. It's like, oh, God. Anyway, so season 3 season 3, I feel, was an upgrade from that in terms of season 3 has a lot of interesting stuff going on here. Where one, we have like the most interesting take on Bruno Mannheim I've ever seen. Essentially, he's the boss of Intergang. Essentially, the weapons outfit. Essentially, he's like the kind of a technological based mafia. And he's good. We have a really interesting take on Bruno Mannheim. He's a lot more down to earth than I've ever seen him before. And we do Kevin Smith's character, which he was surprised by as well. Onomatopoeia. You remember Onomatopoeia, don't you?
No, I can't say I do.
Basically, a bad guy who basically just makes sound effects. In this case, we turned him into a metahuman. But it's the fact that whenever Onomatopoeia only speaks in like slash when he kills somebody or like stab, he speaks.
Oh God,
that's what the comic was. This version's like kind of like makes those sound effects like sonic waves.
That's fun.
Anyway, but here's the interesting thing. We circle back to a really important thing with Superman that the series opened on with the death of Ma Kent. With Lois has breast cancer in season 3. And Superman's dealing with that. And it's kind of the classic Richard Donner idea of like all these powers and I couldn't even save them. So Superman's having a big ethical crisis right now. Of like, I want to be there for my wife, but I'm also Superman, and I don't know how to help her. I don't know how to fix this. And like, there's a lot of interesting layers, a lot of
Just
interesting things.
fly around the Earth backwards, duh.
Funny.
Resist.
Very funny. Anyway, so they end the story on the Doomsday battle. Once Doomsday comes in the fray, so it ends on a cliffhanger. We've just started the potential death of Superman. So I think the idea of like we have like a season where it's like Superman dealing with death, not thinking about his own sake, and now we're going to put that to the test, seemingly going into season 4. So I don't know. We'll see how that. We'll see how that goes down. We'll see how that. Yeah, see how all that feels. That's like if we could just trim the filler, this show would be so much better. That's the thing. Because the show there's a good show here, and it was technically produced by HBO Max. So by that logic, that's why I was able to skirt past a lot of the CW isms. And while they're still kind of there, they're still kind of not. So there's so much potential for this show. Like just like axe the teens.
Right.
Anyway.
Okay, let's see. Oh dear God, let me tell you about a show called Shueco. I say it with a Spanish accent because it is a Spanish language sitcom that randomly got put on Disney Plus. Dragon, I kid you not, it's about a fucking monkey.
Like a chimp or like an actual monkey?
Like a puppet chimp.
Oh.
A talking puppet chimp.
Well, I'm a sucker for puppets. Was it any good?
Actually, yes.
Ah.
So here's the thing. This is a very, very, very standard kind of like sitcom where the whole premise is that the family is like down and out, down on their luck. You know, they're struggling to pay the bills. It's a single dad. I believe the mother just died. And it's a single dad, the 2 teenage kids, and the housemaid, who the housemaid is very much kind of like the fan favorite character. Like she's the one who gets all the best lines and all the best jabs. Essentially, this guy's estranged uncle dies and leaves him his fortune. But there's a twist. In order to get the inheritance, he has to take care of the uncle who is a famous inventor, his beloved prized pet, Chueco. And Chueco is a talking chimpanzee. And shenanigans ensue.
Oh boy.
And Dragon, I don't even know what else to say about it. It's just like, here's the thing though. For like when I first found out it was Spanish, I was like, I don't know how well this humor is going to translate with subtitles. It does surprisingly well. Like, it's as off the wall and goofy as you would expect. It is by no means whatsoever great television. Honestly, with the puppet thing, if you have any passing interest in it at all, I would probably watch it as soon as you can, because it genuinely feels like the type of thing that Disney would put on Disney Plus and then take down in like a matter of months with no fanfare. Honestly, Monkey discovered it, given his
affinity. How appropriate.
I know, right? Given his affinity for monkeys. And we both kind of watched it, like, not together, but we were both watching it around the same time. And I gotta say, man, it is a really good pick-me-up. It really is. I mean, it's just a classic, goofy sitcom in the best of ways. I think that the actor who plays the dad and the actress who played the maid, they have a really great kind of like will they, won't they chemistry dynamic. The maid is always sort of back talking him, but at the same time, she likes him, that kind of dynamic. I don't know. It's just a really, really fun, enjoyable little show. And I literally watched it as a meme.
It's like Elf with a monkey.
Basically, yes. And the whole thing is they can't let anyone know that Chueco can talk, too. That's a big part of the plot. I probably should have
sounds like Elf. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Next up. Okay, you can run through these next two.
Yeah. Okay, real quick. The Blacklist. So these last two kind of like fit in there under like it's the way things timed out with the month. I was kind of expecting to get to them next like in August, but one of them wrapped up really quickly, and the Blacklist will not take long. But it's the last season of a show that should have ended in probably half the time. James Spader's
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I always got.
Here's the
From
thing. So James
Blacklist.
Spader's always fun. This season, the finality of the season, I think, played well. But still, it's the problem the Blacklist has always had, where the Blacklist is sold on like dragging out a mystery that hopefully would have had a really good payoff, and they botched it very badly because they kept you going for a long time, and they kind of, for one moment, when the one of the main characters died, he was so tired of the show she got killed off. It seemed like there was like a vague allusion to the mystery being solved, but then she died, so we never had anyone say, "I've put two and two together. I'm officially saying this," because I don't know, because it was a crazy reveal, but it's only for the audience. They kept it ambiguous. Why keep it ambiguous? How many seasons will it take to satisfy you?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we had like some nice little wrap up things. Like Stacy Keach was Raymond Reddington's mentor, and he showed up, and that was a nice little story there. Toby Leonard Moore from Daredevil, he pops up in a really cool role in the last couple episodes as the senator who brings the whole house down. We got rid of Aram, which broke my heart. I love Aram. We replaced him with a new guy. New guy was okay, but he's no Aram. Only thing you need to know is the penultimate episode was good. It was really solid. Finale was terrible. It was like one of those the resolution to everything what we did with Raymond Reddington at the very end after all that mystery buildup. Like, I wonder how the heck they're going to end this show after all that buildup. Oh, it was awful. Just bad. And poor James Spader. All right. So It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, season 16. Surprised that they're sticking with 8 episodes. Last season was 8 episodes, but I forgot about that because usually they do 10, like Curb Your Enthusiasm. So, but that's why I expect to do this next one. But yeah, it's honestly, they haven't lost a step, man. They've been doing good.
You know what? Honestly, the thing that keeps me from watching this show is just that I really don't like Hulu as a streaming service.
Yeah. I mean, at least the commercials are brief on Hulu.
I've had problems with the billing on Hulu. I've literally tried to start subscriptions with them and then not be able to play the actual thing. Like, I actually have a video on the channel where I was venting about that. That's actually one of our more popular videos.
Well, it's because people are looking for instructions.
Well, yeah, exactly.
All right, so there's about, I think overall there's about, I think six out of the 8 episodes are really strong. None are bad, as I think 6 are probably strong than others. All I'm going to tell you is that there's one episode, Tiki, you have to watch. Not even for the whole episode. The whole episode is kind of like, but you have to watch at least a clip from this episode. I'll send you afterwards if you like it. There's an episode that features Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul playing themselves.
Oh, Jesus. I think I've heard about this.
That's what I'm saying. They play themselves. I think it's called Celebrity Booze, the ultimate cash grab. And Cranston acts. I know it's going to sound really, it's going to be like, it's a movie. But here's the thing. Cranston acts at the end of this episode before.
You're right. That does sound like it's a movie.
But seriously, it's like Cranston, in a meta contextual context, Cranston acts before our fictional characters and blows them away, and it's amazing.
Oh God!
Oh God! Plus, we calling him like Mr. Middle and Malcolm throughout the whole thing. Charlie's such an idiot.
Oh no!
Charlie's such an idiot. God. He thinks that Aaron Paul is Frankie Muniz.
Oh no! Oh my God!
And that Hal's name is Middle. Apparently, he's like Hal Middle. Anyway, there's a Chuck E. Cheese parody episode I think you'd really like called Risky Rat. And the last episode of the season was the big standout. The ended strong. Dennis takes a mental. I think you love this episode. Dennis takes a mental health day is what the episode's called, which Glenn Howerton, our Joshua Thomas actor, he again, it feels like Josh Thomas would have given great breath to had he played it as well. Just Dennis tries to take a mental health day, just nothing goes right, and it's very relatable and it's awesome.
Okay.
So season 16 still going strong, believe it or not.
Ooh, all right.
All right, that brings us to the next one.
Sorry. Realized I never actually made a banner for it. My bad. All right, catch up.
All right, catch up.
Okay, let's see. Past Lives. Yeah, this is A24, but it's a romance movie. It's like a hard, like adult romantic drama. Um, the plot is honestly a little complicated. It involves a couple of time jumps. So the best way I can describe is that like there's a couple of childhood friends. I believe the main characters from. I believe they're from China. I could be wrong about that. I want to say it's China. I could be wrong about that, and I apologize if I am. But so they're like childhood friends, and it's kind of like one of those things where it's sort of like, they're at that age where it could be a young love, and essentially the girl is immigrating to America, and their parents, right before she leaves for America, set her and this kid up with like a date, and not necessarily, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, so essentially like the last time they see each other is like when things where there's kind of like a spark of like they used to be best friends, but then it's like kind of like oh shit, like we could be something, but you're moving away, like that kind of thing. And so essentially the past lives of it all is that they meet up, I think like 2 decades later, and she is married to the most fucking likable person, man. Like, I swear to God, the husband in this movie, like, actively acknowledges, like, look, like, you are, like, I am literally the guy keeping you away from your childhood sweetheart. Like, if this were a movie, I would be a fucking asshole. And I really appreciate that. Like, he was genuinely my favorite character. But essentially, the premise is that the two reunite. It's clear that she has fond memories of him. It's clear that he has not really emotionally moved on from her. And just kind of like the whole film is sort of like about the complicated emotions that brings about. And like I said, with the husband being genuinely kind of the most sympathetic character in the whole thing, I really like how this movie really doesn't take sides at all. I think that's the best part about it. It's very like unambiguously just kind of like people dealing with life. That being said, I do think it's getting a little bit overhyped. Like people are saying it's like a best picture front runner and stuff. I think it's a really nice movie. It's got a great little ending, but like, I don't know, like as far as like, the acting is great. Don't get me wrong. The acting is definitely like an actor's movie for sure. But like, there's really not a lot about this movie that's very cinematic. Like, it's mostly just people walking through, various sections of New York having conversations. Like, it's photographed well, but I don't know. It's just nothing about it is like really that elevated for me. But again, it is a good, like, as far as romance and just being a thoughtful observation on people struggling with life and struggling with like the moral ambiguity of what life can offer you. It's a really solid watch. I just know it's probably not going to be one of my favorites, so if it does end up on my top 20 list of the year, it'll probably be like very like in like a 1918 spot, just because I need stuff to fill out the list. So it's a movie I really respect. It's not necessarily one I'm passionate about, essentially. All right.
So let me tell you about Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind.
Yeah, I still need to. This is one of I believe it's this and The Wind Rises are the only two Miyazaki movies I have.
The beginning and the end until technically the movie came out.
I know, right? Isn't that funny? I didn't even intend that.
So I think so.
I've even seen the Lupin the Third movie. That's not even a Ghibli movie.
Yeah. So I've been trying to catch up and brush up on my Miyazaki blind spots here, which are quite substantial. But I did.
Have you seen Mononoke yet?
No, I have.
I'm going to be really interested to get your take on that one. Okay, I'm sorry.
I saw clips of Mononoke, but I never watched the whole movie. I never watched.
I mean, you know how I responded to Mononoke when I got around to it.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So I mean, I caught up. I've been trying to catch up on the Miyazaki blind spots, but also I for example, I rewatched Spirited Away, which I haven't seen since I saw it on Toonami. way back in the day. So that was quite. I'll tell you one thing. I can't wait to get to the anniversary on that one.
Oh,
Yeah. So, this was Miyazaki's first film. It's got a lot of striking visuals, but I gotta be honest, a little overhyped.
I mean, I don't ever see this as like people. I think it's always like a two-way battle between Spirited Away and Mononoke. Maybe with some, like some off-kilter Ponyo fanboys.
Well, I don't mean overhyped as like the best of Miyazaki stuff. It's mean overhyped in terms of like I think the critics may have gave a little too much credit. I think at the time it dazzled us in terms of like it was new on the scene. But I think looking back on it, it's like it's a first attempt. It feels like a first attempt. It feels like Miyazaki. It's it has striking visuals, and I think Miyazaki's putting a lot of what his heart on the screen there. Like, the whole, like, I like the whole thing that there's like these toxic plants, you have these giant bugs, there's air travel, which obviously
the giant bugs, Dragon. That's actually the thing that's kind of kept me from seeing the movie, just because that's one of the things that just like really creeps me out.
I mean, let me this way to you: the giant bugs are more like they're not like monstrous carnivorous giant bugs. They're more just like they're almost like giant buildings. That kind of imagine if even a Wormy from SpongeBob, right?
Yes.
Well, wait, maybe not Wormy. The giant Alaskan bullworm.
Oh yeah.
Imagine something moves like that.
Okay, that's not terrible.
Something like that. Only it's not gonna.
It's honestly, it's the like. Do we see stuff with a lot of legs? Because that's what I really get grossed out by.
I mean, that's the thing. Because of, like I said, with the Alaskan bullworm comparison, I feel like the legs are like probably unseen because like under like the undersides of the thing, so you don't really see them. I don't think.
Gotcha.
Regardless, the point being, you have these giant bugs. You have like air travel, which obviously Miyazaki's it's a huge passion for him, which animates brilliantly. I think, the movie has a lot of really good ideas, and I think it is very interesting looking. But it's just the third act. The plot is just kind of hard to track. It's just kind of like we're throwing stuff and seeing what sticks. Of like you were throwing like, okay, here's some cool imagery, but it's like I don't really think there's like a logic to it. Really, it's just like we're just kind of looking at it every turn. So it doesn't. It's an early effort before we really crack the story on things. But it has a nice the dub has a nice voice cast. You have Patrick Stewart in there as like the main supporting kind of like figure for her, and Shia LaBeouf and Mark Hamill.
Oh wow, that must have been a super. I knew about Mark Hamill. That must have been a super early Shia LaBeouf though.
That's what I'm saying. It was rather early. Yeah.
Was that like pre-Even Stevens?
Well, actually, there's early, and then there's like I forget when Disney got their Miyazaki kind of like thing.
It was probably like in the middle of Even Stevens, I'm guessing.
If they've been doing it since the '90s, then yes. It'd have to be probably no. This is this is pre-Even Stevens, Diggy. This was in I'm sorry, actually, I can't say for certain because I'm thinking of there's the dub and then there's the original. I can never keep it straight with the Miyazaki.
Yeah, that's confusing. Disney muddied the water with that one.
The original, I think, was like 84, maybe, which is interesting given they kind of like roughly start when Pixar starts roughly.
Sure.
Pixar, I think Pixar started in '86. So anyway. So, okay, well, the point being, I still recommend it to you, Tiki, but I don't know. It's like...
No, I need to get around to it eventually, for sure.
You only got like 2... Well, technically, you're going to have like 3 left. Once we eventually have access to the to the most recent one that came out.
Is that out in Japan now?
Well, that's the thing. It's out there now. I don't know if it's out near us yet or not.
I don't think it is.
Well, that's the thing. Crazily though, they released it without any fanfare. Or they just released it, which is unheard of. There was no marketing, no trailer, nothing. It just happened.
That is crazy. Yeah.
We always joke about like, oh, what if Nolan did that? Imagine the panic that would ensue. There's a new Nolan movie, Stampede.
Well, can you imagine?
But it sounds like that actually happened over there in Japan. All right.
Okay, next up. Okay, Django and Django. This is going to go by really quick. Honestly, Dragon, I've kind of been having an issue with documentaries like this where it's like, this is fun. I enjoy Tarantino geeking out about his favorite obscure filmmakers and whatnot. I think the subtext that he draws from kind of like the fascist angles that this director, kind of like his career being like sort of like a stand against fascism, it's all interesting, but it very much feels like a feature length documentary bonus feature. Like it really doesn't feel that substantial as far as being a film goes. And honestly, I've come across other movies like kind of in this vein where it's like it barely even kind of feels like it counts as a movie. I don't know. Like this really feels like it could have just been attached to the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood DVD. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So don't get me like I enjoyed watching it, but it basically just felt like a YouTube video essentially. All right. Okay, next up for you.
All right. Fat Man, Little Boy. So again, bittersweet month. This is a bittersweet watch for me because what I wanted to do this month with my catch up, and I was gonna basically go with Miyazaki stuff, but then, well, I wanted to watch the last three films my grandfather wanted me to watch. So Fat Man,
Oh,
Little Boy was one of them. And basically, it correlates with Oppenheimer. So the idea is my grandfather loved Fat Man, Little Boy. So aside from just being a history buff that he wanted to see Oppenheimer because it was essentially to some degree a remake of Fat Man Little Boy. In terms of they're adapting the same story. So Fat Man Little Boy is about the bomb drop of Oppenheimer, but
okay.
from General Groves' perspective, that's essentially what Fat Man Little Boy is. And General Groves
Oh, interesting. Okay.
is portrayed by Paul Newman, which is another reason my
Nice.
grandfather watched it. So yeah, he was always going to glow about this movie and say, "Oh, have you watched Fat Man Little Boy?" The only reason I hadn't watched it was because it wasn't really often available for streaming, at least not easily. So I watched this with a buttload of commercials, but I watched it.
Right.
Yeah. Here's the thing. It's a little. Here's the thing. It's a little by the numbers, and apparently there's a lot of kind of embellishments with historical facts. But I mean, Paul Newman's really good in the movie. My favorite part of the movie is actually how it opens, where the idea is that General Groves built the Pentagon. Really, he was like one of the main guys who was the architect behind the
I
Pentagon.
love that that's kind of like thrown out in Oppenheimer. It's just like a little aside. Like, yeah, I
Yeah,
built the Pentagon. What of it?
that's the thing. You're gonna love this. If you ever do watch Fat Man Little Boy, it opens in this wonderful way where they celebrate. Like I don't know if it's just to celebrate the completion, or I think it's just to celebrate his birthday, or like they're celebrating his promotion. He got promoted, and essentially his promotion was to the Manhattan Project. Now, when he's getting promoted to this, they bring in a giant cake of the Pentagon. So it's in the shape of the Pentagon. And they bring it in there, and he doesn't want to be assigned to the Manhattan Project. So he has this big old slice of cake that's like I'm thinking a big old slice, like a section of the Pentagon. And he's so upset by this news, like he just tosses the cake on the floor. Just this giant, awesome Pentagon cake. Anyway, so a little by the numbers, you don't. There's a dynamic between him and Oppenheimer, but not nearly as great as Damon and Cillian Murphy. There's one really good. There's a little bit of what Oppenheimer has here as well, where it's kind of hard to keep track of the scientists. However, this movie has a more minimal number of scientists to keep track of. The easiest way to tell is that John Cusack is one of the scientists that we care about. That basically brings up. Again, this is them probably fudging historical facts. John Cusack plays a scientist who brought up like, here's how we can do the thing.
Really? That's funny.
And basically, there's a really it feels like embellished for drama's sake. Cusack grabs plutonium by the hand, and we have this really scary moment where he's been exposed to radiation. We play it very realistically. Where, oh god, he's touched the thing. And he tells no one move, and they tosses him chalk, and they have to mark it on the floor so they can tell how safe they are by proximity and everything. And he dies very, very horrifically.
Jesus.
So yeah, but the best scene of the movie is the namesake of the movie, where you have Oppenheimer and Groves having this conversation, where basically Oppenheimer is having reservations about the bombs. He basically has reservations before, and we don't do the aftermath like we do in Oppenheimer, the movie. In which they're looking at the bombs and talking about over the implications. It's a nice, quiet scene. Like they're at the party, like, hey, we have the bombs, but we're not supposed to use them. So we're going to, what are the chances they're going to use these bombs? But just them having this quiet conversation about, like, look, this is what we built together. I don't know, it's nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay, let's see. Next up, we have Okay, Cropsey. This is going to go by fast.
Bill Cropsey.
Yeah, this was kind of a disappointment to me because honestly, when the documentary first started, in like the first 20 minutes or so, honest to God, Dragon, the vibe I got from it was that it was basically going to be an exploration on urban mythology, like the kind of shit that we love about Hey Arnold. You know what I mean? Like kind of like the urban legends and how an urban legend can kind of like spread throughout a community and what's true, what's not true. You know what I mean? Like, and I was stoked. Unfortunately, after the first act, which kind of like establishes like the urban legend of Cropsey, uh, after the first act, it kind of just gets into a very by the numbers sort of true crime doc. Like, okay, these were the people that he killed, and this is how we tracked him down. And honest to God, that was honestly one of the most deflating, like, like movie experiences after a first act. Because that first act, like, that urban mythology shit, man. Like, I thrive on that shit. Like, I am so fascinated by that kind of stuff. And yeah, unfortunately, the problem with the documentary is that it just kind of like I said, it went from just like exploring the phenomenon that is, like what is real and what isn't real about this kind of like boogeyman story, and to just like, and we're going to lay out exactly what was real about him in a very by the numbers way. So yeah, honestly, I feel like that kind of like, it's probably like, if not the worst movie I saw this month, definitely the most disappointing. Okay, next up.
In the Line of Fire. Now, this one was literally like the last movie, and I feel guilty. Here's the thing: I had comic on my mind as I was watching like, the DC stuff. But my point being, it was this is the last movie it was recommended to me. Recommended a couple times. It wasn't like it's just though I intended on watching it like the week, like essentially this week when I watched it. So there's a Clint Eastwood movie. It's the Clint Eastwood movie. Basically, he plays Frank, the Secret Serviceman who's on the protection detail of the president. He used to be. He was on the detail for Kennedy when he got shot, when he got killed, and he basically retired and went into undercover work. And he basically is brought back to save the president when he gets there's reports of this guy calling himself Booth for John Wilkes Booth, played by John Malkovich. John Malkovich is a chilling and awesome bad guy in this, where he is. He's on a mission to kill the president, and only Clint Eastwood's going to be able to stop him because he's the only one smart enough to have the tells and guard him the way he should be guarded. He's kind of making up for his failure with Kennedy. So it's riveting stuff. Wolfgang Peterson directed this. Peterson did Never Ending Story and Air Force One.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of familiar faces. And like John Mahoney, he plays the boss that kind of puts Frank on the job. This movie turned 30 this month, turned 30 in July. Rene Russo's in it. My grandfather loved Rene Russo, so there's a little bit of that in there. But it's Malkovich again. He's just electric in this one. He plays a smart criminal who has like a respect for. It's kind of cat and mouse in which he's calling him, saying, "There's nothing you can do to stop this. Why don't you just join me? Why don't you just allow me to kill this guy? Because you were there." Again, he respects him for being willing to take a bullet for Kennedy, but if he had known where it was, he would have taken it, sort of thing. We're like, I respect what your job would have had you do, but you gotta realize that the people you're protecting aren't worth protecting. That's kind of what he's trying to get at.
Mm-hmm.
So, really good dynamic and kind of cat and mouse chase between these two. He gets really intimate, really personal and stuff with them. He has like a ceramic, I guess technically it's plastic, but essentially the idea of like a ceramic firearm, like a collapsible kind of plastic gun you can get through a metal detector. It's like, again, then this is '93. This is way before like the 9/11 era. So it's chilling stuff that was kind of it was predictive. It's a great movie. This one absolutely lived up to the hype. It was
Nice.
This one was a delight.
Okay, the Skeleton Twins. Dragon, literally, I just watched this because I needed to pad out my list, and I was browsing Max, and I was like, "Ooh, Bill Hader, don't mind if I do." And it was a big surprise, man. I actually genuinely ended up kind of loving this movie. it's honestly kind of a throwback to the days as a movie watcher for me, where movies didn't have to be about spectacle or auteurism or like, you know, like what the director's doing or whatever. And I feel like I've really lost sight of that, because ultimately this is just a damn good story. It's a great dramedy, and it's a really good kind of feel-good movie. And it doesn't have any sort of fancy directing or anything, but it's just a damn good feel-good movie. So essentially, Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig play twins, as you can imagine. It's the title. I actually really love where the skeleton title comes from, because essentially they both have their father killed himself when they were, I believe, like around the age of 12, so like a really tender age for that kind of shit. But the main memory that they have of their father is that he was really into Halloween. Like Halloween was like his thing. So they both have matching skeleton tattoos. Anyways, essentially the plot of this movie is literally just, it's basically just Little Miss Sunshine, except without the kids and without the road trip. It's literally pretty much that. So like Bill Hader, the beginning of the movie, he has a suicide attempt, and the whole movie is just kind of Kristen Wiig and him, you know, like sort of kind of trying to come to terms with what went wrong in his life, why she is kind of messed up. She is married to Luke Wilson, who I'll talk about in a second, but she is very much kind of like unfaithful, and she doesn't understand why. She's having an affair with Boyd Holbrook in a very early Boyd Holbrook role. And so it's very much just a movie about messy people, kind of like both messing each other up and also being there for each other. And I felt like it was a very true, real movie for me. Really quick before I get into Luke Wilson. Well, no, I'll get into Luke Wilson and I'll get into kind of like the heart of the movie. Luke Wilson is fucking adorable. I mean, he just is. He's such a puppy dog in this movie, and I adore him.
I mean, you haven't seen him in Stargirl.
Yeah, you're right. I haven't. So yeah, Luke Wilson was probably like the big highlight of the movie for me. Again, like, what is it with movies with just super likable husbands this month? That's kind of been a running trend. And then for me, the big moment of the movie was Bill Hader has a monologue about how you know, like when he was in high school, he got bullied by this one guy in particular, and his mother would give him the speech about like, oh, don't worry about him. Guys like him, you know, like high school is like the best years of their life, and then it's all downhill from there. You're gonna flourish after high school. And then he's like kind of having this monologue about how disappointed he is with his life, and you know, how he's really not amounted to much. And then he looked up his bully online, and this dude is like an electrician with, you know, like a really good paying job and a beautiful looking family and a wife and kids. And essentially the line is like, oh, it turns out all this time I was the one that peaked in high school. Dragon, goddamn, like what I am going through in life, that cut through like a fucking knife. That was, I mean, that was an unforgettable monologue for me. I mean, of course, Bill Hader is going to deliver, but like that is genuinely up there with like some of the best Barry moments for me, just as far as like pure acting on Bill Hader's point. So yeah, like I said, as far as like the story or the plot, it's really just kind of like your standard dramedy fare. The directing really isn't anything that special. It's a lot of shot reverse shot. But ultimately, I just really, really enjoyed spending time with these characters. So yeah, it was a nice surprise for sure. And then Coneheads, Dragon. I know you're into this one. I liked it okay.
Wait, did I put Coneheads there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go on, Tiki.
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if because you have this and go ahead.
Yeah, I botched that one too. Can I
No,
go?
go ahead by all means. Talk about the we can still go in the order you want to go in.
Yeah, so Never Ending Man, Hayao Miyazaki.
Now, is this the because I have seen a couple Miyazaki movies through Fathom events and they always have like a clip at the end. Is this that clip? Do you know? Is it how recent is this?
Well, this was 20. I think this was God, was it 2013?
Oh, okay. So it's definitely not the same movie. That's
I
interesting.
believe it was 2013. Yeah,
Okay.
so this is a documentary. I've always been meaning to watch this documentary, but I can never find it until Annabelle Max when they had like the whole Ghibli section, and I always got sidetracked before I could watch it. And do my Miyazaki deep dive, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna hunker down and watch this thing. And man, this was a very interesting, intimate documentary. I love this thing, man. It's
No.
Miyazaki essentially. So the premise is fascinating because this is a rough around 2013. Miyazaki announced his retirement initially. So initially, back in 2013, he was going to retire, and he was he was going to he's going to do a short film, and you see him basically the whole documentary is him in the production of a short film in CG animation, which he had never done before. So that's the premise of this movie. So this is Miyazaki getting out of the game when it's going fully, when it's like unavoidably through what he had done up to this point. Like it has to be done in computer animation. We can't just do it the original way anymore.
Mm-hmm.
This is him right after he did The Wind Rises. He does The Wind Rises in 2013, and it's just kind of a period of this might have been 2014 possibly, but the fact is like 2013 he does what his send off movie was going to be. He's kind of told all the stories he needs to tell, and it's in hand drawn. Like he can't do a computer animated feature. He's convinced. So it's him working on this short film and kind of working with CG for the first time, and you see the struggle of this hand drawn perfectionist in this new medium, and it's really riveting. And I love like the cozy moments too. Like the movie opens like he's in his really nice house during during a snowfall, talking to the documentary crew. It's something just so darn freaking cozy there. He's like drinking tea and. Yeah, and so you're seeing the studio head, and like the studio is kind of like there's a little bit of tension there. Like the studio without their leader there might fold, especially with this changeover happening. So it's your main talent is in crisis, and you see that in the movie. But it's he's also gets very inspired as it goes on. So he's kind of like reflecting on life and everything that he's done up to this point. That he needs to retire, but he's kind of being. You could see him falling in love with the new medium, but also the challenges and how different it is compared to what he did. So I love like seeing him like critique Frozen. There's a lot of fun stuff there too. Is the idea like he's kind of like a little offhanded comments. It's like again a pioneer, just kind of like nah, that they shouldn't have done that part of it. Like a guy who knows how to represent emotions through animation on film and just like kind of like critiquing things and also like you see him giving notes like crazy on stuff, just like so flawlessly, so effortlessly. And there's a really it ends really great. It's I don't know, it's Tiki, you gotta watch this thing, man.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah, so tell us about how you felt about Coneheads.
Really quick, Kogia says The Wind Rises is the best thing Miyazaki ever worked on. Would have been a perfect finale. However, I heard he wanted to make one final film as a gift to his grandson, and I respect that.
No, I don't
Yeah,
know if that's
Ponyo was a gift to his daughter. Ponyo was also a very personal film in that regard. So
I can't remember if this movie that's coming out right now is that gift to his grandson. I believe it is because the idea is so Tiki. The idea is he came out of retirement, but he came out of retirement to do one more film, but I believe I think it's going to be in computer animated, but that's why it's taking so long.
okay, interesting.
So basically, like, Miyazaki is such a perfectionist with siege in hand drawn.
The first time they I understand the short. I haven't seen the short, but yeah, that witch movie did not turn out great. So I hope
that wasn't. He didn't do that one. That was his studio. He didn't do that.
No, Goro did that one.
Yeah, Goro.
Which, by the way, if we ever get a Miyazaki biopic, it's got to be about the strained relationship between him and Goro.
Really, I know nothing about his relationship with Goro.
Oh, it's tense. It's tense.
Anyway, but yeah, so the idea, like Miyazaki,
Basically,
first of all,
Goro is living in his shadow, and Miyazaki basically doesn't let him forget it. It's the long and short of it.
that's the thing. I forget if Goro was in the documentary now because I kind of blanked on the guy's name. It's the thing, but you see, he has a friend in the documentary. I wonder if that's Goro or not.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Whew, okay, let's see.
Coneheads.
Coneheads, yeah. Dragon, I know you're enthusiastic about this movie, and I thought it was fine. Here's the thing, though. I feel like if I would have watched this as a kid, I would have enjoyed it more. And I feel like now the humor, basically, Dragon, is a little grating. Like, it's fun. It's a fun movie. It's got a fun cast, but the voices are a little much. You got to admit the voices are a little much, right?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
I think it's funny. I don't know. I like, what have you done to your cone?
I can't do it for a feature length. I'm sorry. For me, I feel like this is a great example of like, don't get me wrong, there's fun bits in it. Obviously it's got a great cast. You have like Jason Alexander, Phil Hartman, love when he pops up. Drew Carey randomly, didn't expect to see him. And I love that there's just a lot of different acroids in this movie, including his 3-year-old daughter. That's fun. Of course, McKean is probably a standout. But yeah, I don't know. Like, obviously it's got a star-studded cast. The main characters are so fucking obnoxious, though. I'm sorry. It's just, it just does not track with my comedic
sensibility. Did you find him at least, like, aside from the voice, did you find him likable?
I found him fine. I don't know.
No,
honestly, Dragon, the long and short of it is I kind of feel like the humor, it's kind of like a proto Third Rock from the Sun.
I love the father-daughter story in that Coneheads movie. I don't know. It's really, anyway. It's really nice. I mean, look, tell me that the opening montage didn't charm him. We saw the daughter of Conehead kind of growing up.
Yeah, that was fun. Sure.
Yeah, come on.
I mean, to be fair, montage showing the kid growing up isn't exactly like breaking new ground.
Well, I know. I'm just saying that's one. I thought it was a nice sequence, but I mean, I love the whole thing where he's singing like that song. The group's name escapes me, but the whole sometimes I feel I want to get away. It's dude, pulling back for the climax, and he kind of does a big sacrificial thing to save his daughter. Oh, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, look, the SNL pool of the SNL concepts that got movies, the success rate is infinitesimal.
It's Wayne's World, Wayne's World 2, the original Blues Brothers, and that's honestly kind of it begins and ends there.
That's what I'm saying. Technically, if you lump it by franchise, you got Wayne's World, you got Blues Brothers, you got Coneheads.
Was Joe Dirt an SNL thing?
I don't think it was, but I
don't think it was either. Yeah. It feels like it could have been, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it could have been. I don't think it was, though.
God damn, I think we missed the anniversary on that. Joe Dirt is a fucking classic. I don't even know if it holds up well, but I have fond memories of it.
I don't imagine it does.
Probably not. You're probably right. I do have fond memories of it, though.
Stabbed you in the face with a soldering iron.
God. Kogias, also really quick, just to point out, I think now is probably the time to watch The Wind Rises, because you know what that's about, right?
If I recall, was that it's going to be post-war, right?
Yeah, it's essentially Oppenheimer, but with the guy who invented the plane that bombed Pearl Harbor.
Ooh.
Yeah, right?
I didn't know that part. Wow. That's the thing. Had I not kind of jammed in a few things, I kind of had to jam in, I would have gotten The Wind Rises in. I was going to.
Yeah, I feel like I really need to get to that one now.
That's the thing. I was gonna pick up your slack on that one this way. I was gonna watch the two Miyazaki films you have not seen, but anyway.
Okay, so finally tell me about this Justice League XRYBY.
Yes,
RWBY. What does RWBY stand for? Can you tell me? I
it's
keep
it's the
seeing that acronym.
it's the characters' names, like in like the four female characters' names, just kind of like abbreviated.
Because I
Y is
just assumed it
Ruby.
was, for a long time, I just assumed it was red, white, blue, yellow.
Well, I mean, technically, I think I forget if their colors do correspond with that as well. But yeah, it's essentially. But see, guys, actually, you're not far off. So this is you can okay. So Justice League X,
Ooh.
or
Kogia says The Wind Rises turns 10 this month. Dragon, we should do an anniversary on that.
you mean in August, like this month, or like this month, like July?
I-
I know we're in August. I'm saying for the fact that we're on Memoirs right now.
Let me look it up. I assume he means August.
It means August. I mean, sure. I just don't know how fast we can get it out.
Let me
Yeah.
look it up. Release date. Well, oh god. Okay, we're getting the.
Oh, we're doing that Miyazaki thing again. We're gonna have the
Yep.
years. And...
Okay. Oh, it was. We did technically miss the anniversary. It was July 20th. Oh, it still might be worth doing though, just because of the Oppenheimer tie-in.
That's true. Regardless, so Justice League X RWYB Superheroes and Huntsman Part 1. Yes, this is a crossover based on a comic in which basically it's RWYB. It's like I think it's a manga and a video. I think primarily it's a video game, but it's also kind of like a manga that essentially it got a crossover with Justice League because basically RWYB is a very popular property, the Japanese property. It was a painful sit for him. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was.
Oh, really? Oh god, that bad.
That's the thing. See, I have friends who are I myself as well, but my friends are diehard anime fans. So they were like, you were like, hey, you should, we should. He wasn't really enthusiastic when he brought it up either. It's the fact it was on HBO. I always thought maybe it was a novelty. We'll watch it. And it was on HBO Max, so I gave it a watch. And yeah, it was the pad things out before I came across. Like in retrospect, I would have desperately swapped this with The Wind Rises had I known.
Oh God!
But again, regardless, this thing, it was painful. I'm just bored as tears, and I'm thrown
That
into.
man isn't wearing a mask, according to Gogias.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
See, okay, okay, let me tell you. So the thing is, you're thrown into this world, and when the world of RWYB is essentially Remnant. I think is what the place is called. Remnant is kind of like a very kitschy sort of anime place in which like all the characters have like they have like animal related powers. So they each have like one special ability or like an animal related thing. Bruce is has like bat wings, so he can actually fly around and stuff. But none of the characters have masks. They don't do the full superhero things, and none of them have masks on. So like when basically our Justice League gets teleported into Remnant, and it's one of those stories where it's like they're kind of acclimating it for a crossover, and it just feels very wrong, and like they've been youthened up a little bit to like be like kind of like teen YA kind of generation versions of the characters. It's just I'm throwing unfamiliar territory, and this is not like Batman Batman versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is great, which is excellent. That's a great like introduction. If you know nothing about either of those characters, I think you have at least enough to glom onto like what the gist of those characters are. This is like we just drop our heroes in the Remnant, and they're young Asian teen heroes now, and it just the plot makes no sense at all. I can't track all this dust logic where apparently like powers and dust and stuff powers is called dust somehow. I don't even know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and there's like a dumb Trojan horse twist with like the Flash, or the Flash is kind of like a linchpin. He's like the bad guy somehow hacked into the Flash. So I don't know. It's all really dumb.
God.
I'm not watching part 2 of this thing, man. I was so like the Batman stuff. And look, he had like a nice scene with Batman there, but barely. And I was like, okay, so hey, Batman's infiltrating a party, but then it's just kind of like he's just very out of sorts. The whole thing it's just not good.
Uh-huh.
just bored as heck, man. I was bored to tears, and I desperately regret not watching Wind Rises instead of
it. Okay, best and worst. What do you got?
Okay, best is kind of a tie between. I mean, it's probably going to be Oppenheimer, but a part of me just In the Line of Fire was really good. And here's the thing: I think In the Line of Fire is more consistent than Oppenheimer is, but I have to rewatch Oppenheimer to know for sure. But let's just say Oppenheimer's in terms of the scope and everything, and I don't know, it's kind of like the bittersweet nature. I'm gonna have to go with Oppenheimer. The worst, easily hands down, Justice League X or RWYB Superheroes Huntsman Part One.
All right, best for me. Honestly, I'm torn between Barbie and Oppenheimer. I definitely think Barbie is like gonna be like a consistent rewatch. Like there's so many fun things to go back to with that one, but Oppenheimer is so damn ambitious. But just for the sake of being different, I'll go Barbie. And then worst, I mean, like I said, I really liked the first act, but Cropsy, just that it really just evolved into just like we're gonna hook you in with a good premise, and then we're just gonna make the most generic thing possible. So yeah.
Real quick, Code Geass.
Uh-huh.
So Code Geass says anime and Batman are two of my favorite things. I'm hoping it's good. And I think this is the third anime Batman film. Batman's actually really popular. Yes, he is, and I like Batman meets anime as much as the next guy. I do. This, however, this was not Batman. This is barely Batman. Okay, this is not like Batman Ninja. I think I was hoping for like Justice League version of Batman Ninja. This was not it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no Gotham Knight by a long stretch. Even as broad as the animation can go on that, this is not that old. It's like bland as it gets.
All right, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, big thanks to Code Geass, Richard's Victims, Monkey was in the chat. Don't think anyone else. Let me do a big perusing really quick. No, I think that's just those three. Big thanks as always. And all right, folks, we've waxed on long enough, and now it's time to put the pen down. Until next time, when we return for another fitting chapter in our
Movie
Memoirs. Sublime!